Thanks to Outdoor Voices for supporting Mueller, She Wrote. Outdoor Voices makes high-quality active apparel that transitions seamlessly and fashionably from gym life to everyday activities. For 20% off your first order of $100 or more, visit outdoorvoices.com/MSW and enter promo code MSW at checkout. And here's another great podcast for our listeners to check out. It comes from the legendary editor of Vanity Fair and The New Yorker, Tina Brown. In TBD with Tina Brown, Tina sits down for candid conversations with some of the most interesting people around, including Kara Swisher, Michael Douglas, Aaron Sorkin, and more. Subscribe to TBD with Tina Brown wherever you get your podcasts.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I think. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello, and welcome to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm your host, AG. With me, as always, is Jaleesa Johnson.
Hello.
And Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
All right, guys, we have a crazy episode for you today. Jordan, you're going to talk about how the NRA illegally coordinated with the Trump campaign.
Classic.
Classic. And Jaleesa, in your Racial Maddow segment, you're going to talk about some undocumented immigrants working at Trump's New Jersey golf course.
Oh, yeah.
Great story. I'm going to be covering the Flynn, Cohen, and Manafort filings along with the rest of the news, but I have a correction from last week, and I feel pretty stupid. Last week, when Alderman Burke's offices were closed in Chicago, I had reported this as though it was Alderman and Burke, and that they were tax attorneys. But apparently, Burke is an alderman. Alderman is a title. He's an elected official. There's 50 of them, one from each ward, and together they make up the city council, which serves as the legislative branch for the city of Chicago. And that office was shuttered shortly after Deutsche Bank was raided for issues surrounding the Panama Papers, which Trump was suspiciously absent from. But Alderman Burke handled Trump's Chicago taxes for 12 years. So put some beans on there being some sort of a Alderman Burke, Chicago real estate, tax, money laundering, Deutsche Bank, Panama Papers connection. And thanks to our Chicago listeners for that assist. I had no idea they were called aldermans.
Yeah, me neither.
No way. I'm glad we still use such proper sounding titles in America.
Right?
It sounds like an old English. Alderman.
I'm Alderman Burke.
You turn into
Also
a horse at the
yeah.
end.
Why did that happen?
Hello, I'm Alderman Burke. No, sir, I don't like it. Oh, that's funny. Or maybe he's one of those 1930s guys. Like, yeah, see, I'm Alderman Burke. See?
Oh, yeah.
It could be that. We don't know. All right, you guys, we have a ton of news to get to. I don't even know how we're going to do it, so let's jump in with just the facts. All right, so all week, the rumor mill about Pence was swirling. And it started last weekend, and there was all kinds of speculation that perhaps Pence was the subject of that sealed subpoena battle going on with Mueller right now in the D.C. Appellate Court. Or that he might resign so Trump can appoint someone not compromised by Russia that could pardon him. The truth is we just don't know what's up with Pence, other than he's insulated himself very well, and probably not good enough, and that Trump is eyeing his chief of staff, Ayers, to replace John Kelly as his own chief of staff. But I was reminded about something we covered way back in episode 8, and I encourage you to check out episode 8. It was a very important episode, and in it we talk about the GSA and how they handed over all of the Trump transition emails to Mueller without a fight. So GSA stands for General Services Administration, and they're the agency within the government that manages presidential transition emails, among many other things. And Trump had apparently installed an ally named Beckler in the GSA so that he could maintain control over the transition emails and the transition materials. But that guy died. I don't mean to laugh, but you'll find out why it's funny in a second. And when Mueller wanted those Trump transition team emails from GSA, he pretty much just walked in and asked for them, and they gave them to him. And to be fair, If they'd fought him on it, Mueller probably would still have won because it's a GSA and he's got access to that. But there wasn't even a fight, and it upset Trump a lot. He's like, this is bad, this is really bad. He tweeted out that Mueller obtained the emails improperly, but he didn't. And the thing I can't help but remember about is whatever emails Pence sent and received during that time, Mueller has. Pence was head of the transition team. So
Right.
Mueller has those.
Every time I hear GSA, I keep thinking gay straight alliance, which is funny if Pence is involved with that.
Yeah, highly doubt it.
He probably wanted to change the name. We need to change the name of this. I don't want to be associated with the Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah.
Something else occurred to me this week as I was working on a story about the potential collusion between Manafort, Stone, Corsi, Trump, and all the others to get their story straight and to, offer pardons and stuff. If you recall, they're all in a joint defense agreement, or a JDA. And that means they share information among their legal teams. Not to mention the information sharing they're doing right out in the open includes like Corsi releasing his draft plea agreement with Mueller. He said he intended to turn down, or that Trump leaked some of his answers to Mueller's written questions, or Manafort blowing up his plea deal out in public. All in all, there are 27 parties in Trump's joint defense agreement. But if just one person breaks that deal, Mueller will have a witness or witnesses that could testify to possible witness tampering or suborning or dangling pardons by Trump. So we had some early dropouts from the JDA, including Flynn and Gates, but we have more recent ones too. And depending on when Trump tried to make his deal with potential witnesses, if he did, some of the later defectors could have information on those discussions, like Cohen, for example. And we've heard rumblings this week that Cohen thought he was being offered a pardon in exchange for singing the same song as Trump. So there's also Nunberg, who at first was resisting the subpoena and got drunk and told everybody you're taken from my cold dead hands or whatever. And Corsi could defect from Camp Trump too, though he's seemingly still there. But in any case, I'm interested to see who, if anyone, was offered or was aware of an offer like that from Trump, and if they're willing to testify about it. And after talking to Renato Mariotti last week, we know that that kind of obstruction is really hard to prove, but perhaps witness testimony could help with that. So
Dangling pardons.
Yeah.
Proving that. Yeah.
Or that they were all trying to get their stories straight. And that happened a little bit this week also in the Cohen papers, which we'll talk about in the Cohen sentencing memorandums.
Am I mistaken when I remember that Corsi is the one who tweeted out all those nasty things about Trump recently? Was that him?
That was Credico.
Okay, there we go. Because I was like, why would he do that? But okay, I see the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Corsi is still like Nunberging it up pretty
Got
much,
it.
but he hasn't defected yet.
Okay.
But he's the one who released that draft plea agreement where they were going to offer him probation only in exchange for, his testimony.
How is that not illegal?
Releasing that document?
Yeah.
It depends on whether or not it was part of a coordinated attempt to collude their answers, to make public their answers. And when we talk about the Cohen filing, about it was mentioned specifically in the document that he went public. It wasn't just that he told Congress that he had lied about when the Trump Tower Moscow ended, but he did it publicly. And they said that they alluded to that being obstruction of justice because it's collusory. And so that because he's basically coming out and telling all potential witnesses what to say when they testify to Congress. And then shortly after, of course, Congress hands over all these transcripts of testimony to Mueller. Like, oh, here's everyone else who said, oddly, exactly what Cohen said about the Trump Tower Moscow stopping in January instead of June, and how that actually could have negatively or impacted the investigation. He was trying to steer the
narrative
of the investigation, and I don't think, unless they had a case that there was some sort of a collusory attempt to get their story straight, and they said that he had circulated these documents, his congressional documents, around the administration to solidify what everybody was going to say. And I don't think releasing these kind of things publicly is the problem. I think being able to prove that it was part of a coordinated effort to mislead the investigation and obstruct justice and tamper with witnesses.
Right, because he can still go back and still take the plea agreement. If he releases the draft agreement, then at least everyone, like you said, that are in the same team together, basically, the collusory team, they can get all of their They could be like, oh, okay, this is what they're looking for. Let's get our story straight on that. And then he can go back and still accept that plea agreement because I guess it's probably not going to change the information they're looking for.
No,
and what it would be in exchange for. And then, just need some public records and get those motherfuckers in jail.
Yeah, and thanks for that new nickname, Colosers.
Colosers. Coloser, put the L on your forehead. Oh, God. Smash Mouth. You kill me.
Dude, I saw them once at like a reunion tour.
I'm sorry.
It was in a Henderson Pavilion. It was like where you'd see smooth jazz and
that's like
Smash Mouth.
They're playing state fairs now, That's how it's going for them. Okay, loser. Another case was filed early in the week challenging the appointment of Matthew fucking Whitaker. Another one. Basically a convicted drug trafficker who was resentenced after Whitaker was installed. His attorney has asked to set aside the new sentence on the grounds that the new attorney general's appointment was unconstitutional and therefore has no authority to resentence him or preside over the agency that resentenced him. And this is just one of a bunch of legal challenges to Whitaker's appointment, and we'll keep you posted as we know more. People are just asking judges to get rid of him. Like, what we want is for you to make him not the attorney general, make Rosenstein the attorney general by the Succession Act, and then we'll discuss what the resentencing situation should be. Later Monday, Michael Isikoff, he's one of the authors of Russian Roulette, which we reviewed, very good book. He reported that Mueller was fine with the Senate's request to start subpoenaing people in the obstruction case, indicating, to me at least, that Mueller is fine with the testimony of key witnesses being made public now. And that could indicate that he has what he needs. Though I still have no idea how he can wrap that report up when Trump finds new ways to obstruct justice pretty much every day. I just see him like...
for innovation for that.
Yeah, he's just like, stop bringing the law. I got to get this report done. It just keeps adding to addendum. It's going to be funny. Funny, peculiar, not funny, haha. Then Tuesday, we learned Jeffrey Epstein settled out of court and won't face trial. And this really upsets me. If you remember from last week, he was given that sweetheart deal where he only served a light 13 months in jail, not prison, and he got a work release program, so he's only there 12 hours a day. And he got immunity for him and any of his co-conspirators after raping 30 girls. That was just what FBI had gathered evidence on. There was probably far more than that. And now the AG that gave him that sweet deal is Trump's labor secretary. Weird. But I'm really mad about this. I wanted him to have his day in court. And he basically just...
bailed out of that.
Yeah, bought his way out of it.
Yeah, he didn't have to hear testimony from any of the victims.
Yeah, and I really wanted them to be able to have that.
Yeah, but the lawyer of the victims did say it was a win on some levels for the accusers. We actually have a minisode about that that we'll do soon. But basically, yeah, he said that even though this was a bailout, so to speak, for Epstein, he still has a follow-up trial that this first trial helped them get more information for, I believe. So he may still have to face the music soon enough, but he's gotten away with it so far. So it's kind of like one of those things where we'll see. But yeah, the lawyer thinks, Edwards, the victim's lawyer, he thinks that they're going to be able to take him with this next trial.
Well, good. And the other concern too is that Trump gave a high position to the guy who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think it's because Trump is one of those co-conspirators.
Yeah. Head of the sex labor department.
Yeah. He owned a modeling agency around that time. And so, that's just gross.
Tricky. One more reason to impeach Trump. He's got so many things that I'm sure he's tied to that, yeah, for justice, got to get rid of him.
Yeah. The victims also maybe could have not wanted to testify. That could have been something they would have rather not done. But considering there were so many, I highly doubt all of them didn't want that chance.
Three of them were going to come forward. At least three, yeah.
I think there were some, probably not others, but I wanted them to have that.
Day in court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. Well, some might call it justice anyway, because he did pay a pretty heavy restitution, but he should have paid that in the first place in the criminal trial that he got let off the hook for, and the civil trial should have been different, but...
Totally.
Oh, well, it sucks. It sucks a lot. So, yeah, check out that minisode. We're going to go over that in a minisode this week, right?
Oh, yeah, this week.
Cool. Then Tuesday, we found out Sam Nunberg, who has met with investigators for special counsel, is a longtime Roger Stone aide, and he has agreed to meet with the Senate Intel Committee in January as part of the investigation into Russian election interference. If you remember, Nunberg was previously determined not to cooperate with special counsel, threatening to ignore a subpoena, say, let him arrest me, I don't care. And then that nice lawyer lady was like, "That's a bad idea, bro," and he changed his mind.
Yeah, the real VIP is that
On
lawyer
air.
lady.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like Corsi to me, right?
Yeah.
And Jordan, we talked about this. We think you're probably going to fold like a cheap suit, Corsi. So Nunberg was summoned by the Senate. Summoned. We summon you. They used to say his name 3 times in front of a mirror. And
You have been chosen.
Corsi. Or, excuse me, Nunberg. Yeah. And Roger Stone was also asked for documents. And instead of agreeing to appear like Nunberg, Stone has said he will plead the Fifth, which he didn't need to do because they only asked him for documents. And it was Di-Fi, so she's not quite yet the majority leader. She's not the chair, so she doesn't have subpoena power. So he wasn't subpoenaed, and they just asked for documents. It's not necessarily plead the Fifth when you are asked to produce documents. This is especially hilarious considering all the things Trump has said about people who plead the Fifth. If you remember when Hillary was your staff pleading the Fifth, guilty, mobs do that, mob, Fifth, plead, you suck.
Yeah.
And now here's Stone like, I'm pleading the Fifth to a document request, which you don't have to do.
You paranoid, bro?
Yeah.
It's like when a cop stops you and you run away, basically.
Where you going, buddy? Everything okay?
Yeah.
No.
We're just looking for a cat in a tree.
Over there.
The
We
cat colluded.
have to get there fast. Also Tuesday, Priestap left the FBI. Priestap, who currently serves as the Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Division, is set to retire by the end of the year. He's the last of the old guard of high-ranking FBI officials that helped oversee the investigation into 2016 Russian election meddling and the investigation into Hillary's emails. So the Wall Street Journal says his retirement is unrelated to the investigations and he's simply retiring because he served his 20 years and he's done. He wants to go. Just like all the other people who worked on the Russia investigation. Nothing to see here. Then we got the Flynn sentencing document on Tuesday we were all waiting for, and I'll go over that later in the show. Wednesday, we learned that the RNCC was hacked again this past election cycle. This, in combination with what we know about the first RNC hack, where none of the materials were released, adds to the speculation that foreign actors have stolen from both sides but have only weaponized hacked materials from the left, from the Democrats.
Yep.
Reports indicate that the RNCC hack was executed by a foreign actor, but it doesn't confirm that it was Russia.
Well, they could still weaponize it just behind closed doors via compromise.
Yeah.
That's precisely correct. And it could explain why Rand Paul is all up Putin's butthole and it's ridiculous.
I'd assume he has like a really clean butthole though, for some reason.
Putin?
Yeah. Why do I
He's
think
probably got a
that?
whole crew of butthole maintenance.
That's
people.
what I was gonna
You're
say.
that rich, yeah.
Like a human bidet team.
It's my
Trump's hair.
This is my ass entourage. And they all walk in, dun, 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 chicka, dun, chicka, dun, and they all walk in slow motion. They got all their butt cleaning tools. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's like a chimney sweep.
Oh yeah.
But for butts. But for butts.
Jiminy. All right. That gives a whole new meaning to me for the Mary Poppins
Yeah.
song.
He's got to fit his head up there.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
There's a lot of people with their heads up there, I'll be honest.
Oh.
Also, Wednesday, we learned that the Trump Organization was subpoenaed for business records, along with additional subpoenas. And NPR reported Monday that Maryland and New York, or Southern District of New York, or D.C., Maryland and D.C. were getting ready to subpoena the Trump administration, or the Trump Organization, and they did Wednesday. So they were subpoenaed for business records, along with additional subpoenas served to a dozen linked entities in a lawsuit challenging Trump's business ties while in office. D.C. Attorney Carl Racine said that he can confirm all Trump Organization entities have been served. The lawsuit brought by D.C. and Maryland claims that Trump is in violation of the Emoluments Clause in the Constitution, meaning payments from foreign governments benefiting the Trump International Hotel have continued into Trump's presidency, among other things. So we'll keep you posted. Watch those space beans.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of violating the Emoluments Clause, we learned Wednesday that a Saudi-funded lobbyist paid for 500 rooms at Trump's hotel in D.C. within weeks of Trump's election. In all, the lobbyist spent more than $270,000 at the Trump International Hotel in downtown D.C., which Trump still owns. The lobbyists have said they only booked at Trump's hotel because there was a discount.
Oh yeah, that's right. That treason discount.
It was only $750 a night. There's no other hotels. There's 800 other hotels that are
Right.
cheaper than that. And that they only did it because there was a discount, not to curry favor with Trump. And the quote is absolutely not. It had nothing to do with that. Not one bit. That's what Michael Gibson says, a Maryland-based lobbyist who helped organize the trips. His lobbying firm being in Maryland could explain why it's D.C. and Maryland state attorneys general that are filing this suit. Oddly enough, the trips were part of an unorthodox campaign that offered U.S. military veterans a free trip to Washington, D.C., all expenses paid. And then they sent these veterans to Capitol Hill to lobby against a law that the Saudis opposed. The veterans were never told they were lobbying on behalf of Saudi Arabia.
What the fuck?
Or that it was the Saudis footing the bill, adding to the unabashed exploitation of veterans for political purposes, I might add. And speaking of lobbying firms, it was reported Wednesday that the New York Post has said that the feds are ramping up their probe in 2 lobbying firms with ties to Manafort. According to the Associated Press, in a flurry of new activity, Justice Department prosecutors have begun interviewing witnesses related to the Podesta Group and the Mercury Public Affairs Group. It's not that Podesta.
Okay.
Different Podesta.
Got it.
This is all related to Tony Podesta and Vin Weber, who did not register as foreign agents for Ukrainian lobbying work done on behalf of Manafort. And also, speaking of that, it's been pointed out to me several times now, and I just haven't learned yet. I keep referring to Ukraine as the Ukraine, which is left over from the former Soviet Union, and it's improper. So I apologize for that. I mean no ill will. I think it comes from growing up and watching ice skating and gymnastics so much in the 80s and 90s. But I'll do my best to stop referring to it as the Ukraine, and I apologize if I've offended anyone. It's certainly not intentional. Thanks to everyone for pointing that out. Keep doing it, because I can't stop.
Yeah, Julissa and I have age privilege. We never even knew that was ever a thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, we just always grew up calling it the Ukraine, and that's not cool anymore.
Got it.
They're like their own thing.
Yeah.
Sovereign nation. Ukraine.
Nice.
The Ukraine. It seems more important, sort of, when you say it that way.
Right, like the Ohio State University?
Right, yeah.
I don't think they do it the same way. Yeah. Like the United States of America. I don't know. But they've asked me to stop, so I'll stop.
Yeah.
I don't mean to. Finally, Wednesday, The Hill reported that the Trump team is considering removing Pence from the 2020 ticket. According to 2 sources familiar with the meetings about Pence, the Trump team believes that Pence doesn't expand Trump's coalition. Additionally, the sources have said that Trump isn't putting much into the 2020 campaign and seems wildly unprepared for the election. That's the reporting. My conjecture is that he isn't focusing on a run in 2020 because he knows he won't be on the ticket in 2020. And this ties in nicely with the story about sources close to Trump telling the Daily Beast he has repeatedly shrugged off the ballooning debt because he won't be around to shoulder the blame when it becomes untenable. He says, quote, I won't be here. That's what Trump said in a meeting about the debt crisis. That's
when?
Unconscionable. This week.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, maybe he means like I physically won't be on this earth anymore, one way or another.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care. It's not. I'll be gone.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't think he was focused on the 2016 election either.
That's good. That's a very good point.
This has all just been a whirlwind of surprises for him.
Yeah.
He just keeps finding himself in places.
He was also wildly unprepared for 2016.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so he just hasn't been caring. People are like, you got to start setting that shit up. I know he hired Brad Parscale, to be the campaign chief in 2020. He's the guy who got the whole Cambridge Analytica data analysis shit going. I think he's going to be indicted, so I don't think he's going to be able to run any campaigns. Although that seems to be a trend with his campaign managers being criminals. So
yeah,
true.
America has this dynamic with Trump, like that girls have with emotionally absent men, where you like want them to love you, so you're like, love me, but they're like, I don't even care.
Yeah.
And then you just invest so much in them and you elect them as president of the United States.
Yeah, dude, it makes them more
You deserve
powerful.
more.
We deserve better, America.
Yeah, I don't know how he's gonna get 2020 going when all of his dudes are gonna be indicted. Somebody actually said if Trump wants Hillary to go to prison so bad, he should have hired her to be on his campaign.
That's funny.
That was a good tweet.
Maybe being unprepared is his strategy.
That's what I'm saying. People like it.
Yeah.
Worked for him, I guess, before, but I think he was pretty well prepared in the Russian collusion part of it.
True, he seems like it at least.
Yeah, I think he knew. But we'll find out. Not yet, not this week, but we'll find out eventually.
Every week we'll say that. Just tune in next week.
Just keep sticking with us. Stick with us. Hang in there. It'll come out. It will.
Yeah, one day we're like, it's here.
As will all the redactions in the memos that came out, the sentencing memorandums and documents that came out this week. So we'll be going over that later in the show. And I can't wait to talk about those. But
Yeah, that'll be a fun day, fun episode in the future.
Oh, when his
Today.
full report comes out, I'm talking about today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of meat on the bone. It's not all the meat, but there's some of it. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, Mueller junkies. We want to thank Outdoor Voices for supporting our podcast. Outdoor Voices believes that harder and faster and stronger is not necessarily always better. So they design gear for doing things, being active, and just kind of being casual. And their stuff is great because it's versatile to go from working out to hanging out. They use this great material that wicks sweat. My favorite is their signature textured compression. And I have leggings and they have sports bras. Jordan, you got some sports bras. Do you love them?
I did, yeah. I love them very much. I really like the selection process too online. They have a lot of different designs. So typically sports bras get kind of boring, you know, with the same cut. They have a bunch of different cuts, bunch of different colors, bunch of different styles, and they're super cute and they're really comfortable. And just like you said, you can go from hanging out during the day to working out to going back to hanging out, and you don't need to change your bra at all.
Well, that's nice. What'd you get, Jaleesa?
I got some really cute polka dot shorts and a hoodie, and it's totally my style. I love things that are casual but also really cozy. The fabric is so soft, and I feel like I could sleep in it, I could work out in it, just wear it all day long, and I would have the right, perfect fit.
And the other cool thing is they have completely hassle-free returns. So if something doesn't fit, you just send it back, free shipping, and they won't stop until you're totally satisfied with your products. And
Nice.
I really appreciate that. And more importantly, well, not more importantly, but as important is they're very into sustainability, and that is important to us as well for the planet. But whether you're looking to add some running shorts to your wardrobe, or you just want something comfy or some stuff to work out in, things that you can take from working out to casual hangs, this is the awesome stuff. And they have a hashtag on social media called #DoingThings. They're uniting exercisers who basically just like to have fun. And Freeform is a cozy, soft material, like you said, perfect for stretchy activities like yoga. So check them out. You can get 20% off your first order of $100 or more by visiting outdoorvoices.com/MSW and enter promo code MSW. That's 20% off your first order of $100 or more by visiting outdoorvoices.com/MSW. And don't forget to use the MSW code at checkout. You'll be glad you did. All right, guys, welcome back. We're on Thursday, when we learned Ecuador says that Britain has provided sufficient guarantees that Assange would not be extradited to a country where he would face the death penalty, and they're ready to let him go. I keep wondering what's going to happen to his cat. The reason we might not have seen the Stone indictment could be because Mueller is waiting for an agreement with the UK to extradite Assange before he unseals the charges. I thought about that. That's conjecture, by the way. There may be several other factors affecting the delay in the Stone indictments, including the Mueller subpoena battle. Andrew Mueller, the house painter who did his scheduling, Stone scheduling, he's fighting the constitutionality of Mueller's appointment. He'll lose in that subpoena battle. And maybe there's even a push to get Corsi to go Nunberg and flip on Stone. In other Assange news, The Guardian reported Thursday that Mueller is examining Ted Malloch's appearances on the Kremlin-controlled Russian television RT. Mueller's investigators have asked Ted Malloch, the London-based cutout that Corsi used as a go-between for Stone and Assange while he was talking to Trump late into the night. They're asking him about his appearances on RT because RT has a close relationship with Assange. The story also reveals that RT staff met with Assange the same day Corsi emailed Stone. I'm sure this is all part of the Roger Stonehenge investigation and the possibility that he was the linchpin between WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. I'm sure all or most will be revealed when we finally get the Stone indictments. But again, that could be delayed for several reasons. And one of them could be that secret subpoena battle or the Mueller subpoena battle or waiting for Assange to be extradited, or at least free to be extradited to the United States before he unseals those indictments.
Yeah.
I think they're already sealed. I think they're already existing
Blank.
indictments.
Yeah.
They're just sealed.
Mm-hmm. What a web of criminality Stonehenge has become.
It's so gross.
Yeah. I looks at it and he's just like, my life's work. I can go to jail happy now.
Yeah, I think he
Satisfied with
wants
this.
to.
Yeah. He wants to go out in a big flame, I think.
Yeah, and he probably will. He'll probably refuse everything, might flee. Who knows?
Yeah, I think Trump still might flee. I'm hanging on to that.
That'd be so funny.
That'd be cool. Also Thursday, we learned Bannon interviewed with the Senate Intel panel on Cambridge Analytica last month. According to the Daily Beast, Bannon faced questions about the now defunct data company in a closed-door session. Richard Burr, Mark Warner, and Bannon's attorney have declined to comment. But it's important to note that Bannon's attorney is still the same lawyer used by former White House counsel Don McGahn and the former White House chief of staff under Trump, Reince Priebus, mole. And that's important because if you're a lawyer representing three dudes or three people, all three people have to be telling the same story. You can't have that conflict of interest. So presumably Bannon, Priebus, and McGahn are all
telling the same story.
Yeah, telling the same story.
These are all people Trump has publicly turned against too. So hopefully they're all motivated to actually tell the truth and give some good information.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of past episodes on Cambridge Analytica. So if you want to look up what that was, that's the company basically that was stealing the stealing 50 million Facebook users' information and using it in
politically
psychographics to politically manipulate voters. So that's what that Cambridge Analytica. They're now closed. They've been closed.
Didn't they rename themselves too, though?
Yes, they did. They came out, and Parscale is part of that, which is the guy who Trump, we taled about. He's head of the 2020. It's all
whack-a-mole, man.
It's ridiculous.
Whack-a-Priebus.
Just see the whack-a-mole game with little Priebuses coming out of it. Pre-buy.
Oh, pre-buy. I like that, yeah.
All right, let's see. In Maria Butina news this week, the Red Devil, there was a conference call Thursday morning between her lawyers, the federal prosecutors, and the judge in her case. The content of the call was placed under seal by request of the defense, not the government. The government just agreed to it, which indicates that either health issues were discussed or a defense strategy was discussed. I tend to think it was defense strategy because shortly thereafter, a public defender was appointed to Butina's case. We don't know if her current legal team is on the way out or not. I heard rumors that she wants to defend herself, and they maybe appointed this public defender to be like, don't do that. But I can't confirm that. I haven't been able to corroborate that. But they also may have discussed her mental health status, as she's been in solitary confinement since November 21st. And we know from a previous episode that we did reporting that her defense team was concerned about her mental health. Health issues and defense strategy seem to be two of the main reasons that hearings are placed under seal. Because the health stuff is falls under HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, basic Privacy Act for health stuff.
Yeah.
But we also learned from the hearing that they're no longer pushing for a subpoena, and Butina's hearing previously scheduled for December 18th has been canceled, which says to me she's cooperating.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind for your Fantasy Indictment League draft this week. In related news, we learned Thursday that Paul Erickson, Butina's Republican boyfriend, Beauty and the Beast guy, has received a letter saying he can expect to be indicted under Section 951 of the U.S. Code, a law barring people from secretly acting as agents of a foreign government. This is less than full espionage and is typically referred to as espionage light, but it's more than just failure to register as a foreign agent. The letter also said he could be indicted for conspiracy. To watch for Paul Erickson indictments in the Butina case.
Poor NRA beard.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they'll let them share a cell together.
Oh, yeah.
Gross.
To finally be together.
And even though this is outside of the Mueller investigation, I say it would count toward the Fantasy Indictment League because it's related to Russian interference in the 2016 election. More news Thursday that Trump is considering William Barr as the leading candidate for Attorney General, replacing Matthew fucking Whitaker. Barr served briefly under Papa Bush in the early 90s. He said some disparaging things about the Mueller probe. So there's that. We have to keep that in mind. And speaking of Whitaker, this week the Department of Justice offered some guidance on his oversight of the Mueller probe, but then not really. In a report by the Washington Post Friday, the Justice Department has received requests for advice and issued guidance concerning Whitaker's involvement in the special counsel's investigation of Russian interference, according to department records. The records' existence shows for the first time that the issue is a point of discussion within the Justice Department. The Justice Department is acknowledging they found the records in response to a FOIA request, that's a Freedom of Information Act request, filed by Lawfare, who shared the response with the Washington Post. So Lawfare asked for all records of requests for advice, authorizations, determinations, guidance, and all requests for advice, authorizations, determinations, and guidance, or legal issues arising from Whitaker's appointment, along with anything the Justice Department had provided regarding ethical or legal issues arising from Whitaker's role. So he's basically like, give us everything you got on Whitaker. and all the requests and advice that you received about him. And the office responded. They said they found 13 pages of such records, but we're withholding those documents, citing a legal exemption that allows the government to keep private any internal communications that might be protected by attorney-client privilege or could be considered deliberative in nature. So basically, lawfare asked, justice says we have some, but you can't see them.
Yeah, classic.
That old chestnut. Mm-hmm. Then some great reporting in the Trace and Mother Jones about NRA and Trump running a seemingly coordinated ad campaign, which is illegal, came out. And Jordan, you have that story for us later.
I do, yeah.
Then do you guys remember the U.S. v. Gamble?
Yeah.
It's a case about the guy who went to prison and then was charged for the same crime in state court, and everybody was worried that if the dual sovereignty doctrine were overturned, that Trump could pardon folks in the Mueller probe and they wouldn't be able to be tried again in state court.
Right.
And everyone was freaking out, and I told everyone to chill. Well, chill, because the oral arguments in the Gamble case this week indicate that SCOTUS is in no mood to overturn the dual sovereignty doctrine, and the rule should remain in place, meaning that folks like Manafort and Trump can still be charged in state court for crimes they were charged for in federal court. They haven't made their ruling yet. That's not until the summer, but the justices made clear that they didn't seem like they wanted to turn over this rule. Even Kavanaugh was like, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
All right. yeah.
I mean, I want to shit on him every time I hear his name, but
in this
just
case,
trying
I
to,
guess he's being reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also it just seems like a lot could happen between now and the summertime. So I wonder if they're open to changing their mind at all too.
No, I mean, probably not. Usually they have the arguments and then that's it. But and then they come out with their decision. But I mean, they have that whole time to come up with their decision. But basically they were like, this is a 100-year-old rule. It's been upheld over 30 times by precedent and other judges. So, you know.
That was RGB.
How is she doing, by the way? I haven't heard a health update in a while.
Good. Back on
Cool.
the bench.
Nice.
Being a badass.
Benching 120, probably.
Dude, I can't even do that. She probably benched more than me for sure.
Yeah.
In a weird twist this Thursday, we learned that Brian Benchkowski, the guy Trump appointed to run the criminal division of Main Justice that also represented Alpha Bank after it got caught communicating with the Trump Tower server, recused himself from the Mueller probe, or was recused. During his confirmation hearings in July, senators voiced concerns about his ties to Alpha Bank, and a recent letter sent October 18th from Assistant AG Boyd told senators that Benchkowski is currently, quote, screened off from any matters regarding the Mueller probe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like as things are ramping up and more people are getting closer and closer to being indicted, I see people being more reasonable in other arenas. I don't know if that's to be like, I don't know, like Trump even is doing things that he would have never done months ago.
Like canceling with Putin.
Yeah, exactly.
If
Stuff
Putin
like
didn't
that.
cancel
Or
with him.
coming out with public statements saying that the reason he canceled is because of, Putin seizing those Ukrainian ships or something, or
Yeah.
right? What he
Yeah, he's saying because of the Navy thing that happened.
that was what he gave as a reason. It's like they're just trying to.
And then to not do a press conference to respect Papa Bush.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to behave.
Well, their last defense is trying to change the language, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later when we get into the Comey hearings that happened on Friday. There's so much news. Oh, my gosh. And new reporting from CNN emerged Thursday saying Andrew McCabe, my boyfriend, former acting director of the FBI, had opened up an obstruction investigation into the Trump administration after Comey was fired. And we knew that, but it turns out him and Rosenstein weren't buddies. McCabe was upset about Rosenstein overseeing the Mueller probe after having written the memo that Trump used as an apparent excuse to fire Comey, saying he mishandled the Hillary email investigation. So the actions of Rosenstein are at odds with the McCabe memos that we talked about several weeks ago, saying Rosenstein wanted to wear a wire when he was talking to Trump, and Rosenstein maintains he was joking. But I'm sure we'll find out as the obstruction case becomes public. If I were you, though, I wouldn't look for any resolution that would be degrading to the FBI. So the actual nature of these internal discussions may never see the light of day. One source indicated that reservoir of trust. Remember? Comey talked about all the time? Mm-hmm. Reservoir of trust, and I could never say it right, so it's the reservoir of trust. One source indicated that Mueller preferred Rosenstein oversee the investigation, though, so it's still unknown who was doing what and why. This whole thing is we're just trying to piece things together with like 2% of the evidence, and we're just not going to be able to.
Right.
We're going to have to wait.
Someone said on Twitter that we try to stitch the news together. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be.
yeah, we speculate.
Yeah, just making a shitty quilt.
Big shitty treason quilt.
There are shittier quilts. There's a polio quilt out there. There's all kinds of. This is a pretty good quilt, I think, though.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just said shitty as a joke. I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Oh yeah. No, I was saying there could be shittier quilts too. I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I like all quilts.
Yeah.
All quilts matter.
I'll definitely look back on this quilt fondly. That's for sure.
Yes.
That's true. That's
Hang it on
very
a
true.
wall.
Go spread it out
Where
on
all
the
good
national
quilts
lawn.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do a Mueller Shiro quilt too. Yeah.
I don't know.
Safety blankets.
We got too many projects. Just put it on there on the list of projects. But and pretty soon, and I'll talk about this in the Comey hearings, that IG report on the FBI field office in New York, that's going to come out. And this whole timeline of what happened in September and October between McCabe, Comey, and everybody is going to figure wildly into all this. And then I don't know if it's going to go into the Comey firing and the Rosenstein memo and what McCabe thought about that and that he set up that investigation on obstruction. I don't know, but we'll eventually get the story, or at least some of it. But like I said, their number one thing at the FBI is to not talk bad about the FBI. So there might be some things that we just won't find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what beans are for.
Beans. Also Friday, Rudy Giuliani, called CNN's Dana Bash and said that Manafort is being accused by Mueller of lying about Trump. Specifically, that Mueller says Manafort lied about Trump, knowing of the Trump Tower meeting. Oddly, nothing about that came out in the Manafort filing, which I'll cover later in the show. But that says to me that Trump's team did not know what was in those filings ahead of time, which means that maybe Matthew fucking Whitaker isn't getting shit, which pleases me. That's all conjecture, but Rudy likes to seem to come out and lube the truth, like we've always talked about, with filings that are going to come out, like whether he says, yeah, he knew about the payments to the Playmates, or, and change the whole story that they've stuck with. And that's kind of what he does, that he's the punching bag for the, for the legal team. And he seemed to think, or at least I don't know why he would talk about Trump knowing about the Trump Tower meeting and Manafort and lying and all that stuff, if he didn't think that was going to come out in the Manafort filing.
Exactly.
Which means he didn't know what was in it.
That's amazing.
That makes me happy. Friday, we learned that Chief of Staff John Kelly is not only likely to resign, but that Kelly has spoken to Bob Mueller over the last few months about obstruction of justice. According to CNN, John Kelly was a witness to Trump asking Don McGahn to publicly denounce the New York Times article saying that Trump wanted to fire Bob Mueller. McGahn refused to do so at the time, so Mueller went to Emmett Flood. Mueller recently went to Emmett Flood, the current acting White House counsel, and said he needed to interview Kelly about the incident. And Flood said no, not unless you can prove he's the only one that can answer those questions and that it's absolutely necessary. Those are the two criteria you have to meet in order to have that conversation. And it seems Mueller provided the proof needed to indicate Kelly was the only one who could prove or provide that information, so Flood was forced to allow him to answer a negotiated set of questions about the incident. Mueller also asked Kelly about Trump telling McGahn to fire Mueller, and this testimony from Kelly is meant, presumably, to corroborate what McGahn has told Mueller's office, who spent 30 hours talking to them. And this shows how Mueller is really taking advantage of the disorganization inside the Trump White House. When Emmett Flood is forced to agree with Mueller about conversations that occurred before he even got there, it's clear that the lack of discipline and continuity in the White House is going to be a part of Trump's undoing. It's so crazy that this is even a thing. This also shows that obstruction is still a major part of the Mueller investigation. Something else to consider. Could this have been the subpoena battle under seal in the D.C. appellate court right now? Meaning Mueller subpoenaed him, Flood and Kelly fought that subpoena, but Mueller won. I'm not so sure, because I feel like we'd have heard that the December 14th oral arguments hearing would have been removed from the calendar, and we haven't heard any reporting that those closed sessions hearings have been canceled. So they're going forward with those hearings, and I'm trying to figure out in my brain if they're still going forward with those hearings, but Mueller already won the subpoena battle with Kelly. Why would they still have hearings? So I don't know.
Yeah, that is tricky.
Yeah, I love that he's doing all this work to get down to the bottom of something that relates to them trying to fire him. That's funny. Like, so you try to fire me? Who wants to talk?
Me? Bob?
You want to say it to my face?
That's great.
If you have something to say to me, you can say it to my face. To my striking jawline.
Yeah. Gonna to win a subpoena battle so you can tell me everything that they tried to do to get rid of me.
Oh, I love it.
That's part of the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be funny if you'd be like, all right, it's time for me to recuse myself because I'm now a witness in my own case.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, but I guess that would just be too absurd since it's all connected.
Yeah, how
Right.
meta can
I'm
they
sure
get?
they would try. They probably already did try to fight it on that ground.
Yeah, probably. They have all sorts of little fights, and Mueller's batting 1,000. He's won every single motion that he's filed.
Yeah.
You should come and play for the Padres.
Right? He's like the LeBron James of this.
He wouldn't leave anybody stranded. Stupid Padres. We also learned now we're a sports Trump cast.
Yeah, no one knows the Padres that are listening.
No, the Padres is the only team I know. That's the only reason I said that.
Are they still in San Diego? Have they left yet?
Oh,
no, they're here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
I like them. We also learned Friday that Trump is nominating William Barr, as I said earlier, to be the next attorney general. CNN said to be his next attorney general. And I take issue with that phrasing because the attorney general is not his. The AG is ours. He's the AG of the people. And I wish CNN would take care to word things in such a way so as not to indicate that it's Trump's attorney general. Barr was in the CIA in the 70s. He served in a few leadership roles in justice under Papa Bush. He was attorney general from 91 to 93. So we're bringing back vintage attorney general. And he's also served as an executive in the private sector for a while. Many believe he should recuse himself from the Mueller probe, not only because he has some negative things to say about it, but because he has no idea what's going on with it. And Rosenstein should just remain in the role. That's what Richard Painter's coming out saying now. He's like, I don't care if you have a conflict of interest. Why do you think you can come in and just take over the Mueller investigation that's been going on for 18 months when we have a very capable person providing oversight?
Exactly.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Also, Friday, Tillerson told CBS News that Trump is impulsive and he hates to read, and that he often would want to do things that were against the law.
Wow. Is that like his Twitter bio now?
No surprise there. As we know, Tillerson, who might have been installed by Russia, by the way, that's conjecture, though there's proof out there that Carter Page announced Tillerson in Russia before he was announced here, and he had communicated with the transition team about it prior to it happening. And I think that there was some sort of connection with McFarland and Butina and Flynn and all that.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't qualified, that's for sure.
With the appointment of Tillerson.
Yeah.
And now Trump's out on Twitter saying Tillerson's, what did he say?
Dumb as a rock.
Dumb as a rock.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get rid of him fast enough. It's like, you hired him.
He always says that. He says it about Omarosa and countless other people, like as if he is admitting that he sucks at choosing people.
Yeah, well, my tweet to him was, you're acting like you didn't hire him. Was it Putin that hired him? Because you're acting like you didn't hire him.
Yeah, he just had to let him serve out his contract and fire him as soon as he was allowed to.
He's a free agent now.
Yeah. Our book, our book club, I should say, that we're reviewing, Fear by Bob Woodward. There's a lot of good stuff in there about Tillerson and how he thinks Trump is a dumb box of rocks.
Yeah.
Remember when Tillerson, when he was being really disrespectful to all of the essentially like essential people in our National Security Council, he's like, I'm not going to work for this guy anymore. He's disrespecting all these people that actually have credentials and are, like,
even
know what
Rex
they're
knew
doing.
better. Yeah,
he was the one who called him a fucking moron, according to some reports.
That's
and
right.
many reports, and he's never denied saying that.
Yeah.
He's never denied it. So.
Maybe Trump thought a guy named Rex would be better at, like, fetching for him and doing his bidding.
Yeah.
He's got a dog name. I like that.
Rex, I need someone that has shorter arms than me.
T-Rex.
I love it.
Won't make me feel insecure about my small hands.
Oh, Rex T. There you go. That's a new nickname.
We
right
have a
there.
nickname for Tillerson's, Rex T.
All
Okay,
right.
I like it. Small hands. Can't stab out his own eyes.
That's why Trump liked him.
Yeah, right? And of course, then Friday, the Cohen and Manafort filings came to light, and we'll go over those later in the show. Finally, guys, Comey testified for 6 hours behind closed doors on Friday, while Republicans emerged tight-lipped. Comey, which is bad news for them always, otherwise they come out blabbing. Comey came out and said, quote, I don't understand why we couldn't have done this publicly. And also, when you read the transcript, you'll see we're talking again about Hillary Clinton's emails, and I don't think we needed to do this at all, basically. He's like, I'm tired of damn emails. Some issues they touched on were biases in the FBI about Donald Trump, the origin of the Trump-Russia investigation, and also the surveillance on Carter Page. Also, Hillary's email investigation, particularly why Comey closed the case, Democrats said it was a waste of time, this whole hearing, but Republicans plan on having Comey back again because he couldn't answer a lot of the questions because they're part of open and ongoing investigations. When are you going to get the message? Comey tweeted after the hearing, "Today wasn't a search for the truth, but a desperate attempt to find anything that can be used to attack the institutions of justice investigating this president. They came up empty today, but we'll try again. In the long run, it'll make no difference because facts are stubborn things." That's a thing he likes to say.
It's beautiful.
There's another hearing in 2 weeks. It's important to note the Republicans will only hold the majority for the next few weeks, so they're running out of time.
So they're going to amp it up, I bet.
Yeah, some of the highlights of the transcript include Comey's assertion that he saw zero evidence of bias in the FBI investigation, including Page and Strzok. Lisa Page was the attorney and Strzok was the guy. They texted back and forth about, they hated everybody pretty much. Hillary, Bernie, Trump, they hated everyone. The cornerstone of the defense of Trump is that there's a corrupt deep state group of radical liberals in the FBI that were hell-bent on investigating Trump and exonerating Hillary. But that argument holds no water because Strzok actually helped with the reopening of the Hillary email investigation 11 days before the election, and he could have easily leaked that Trump was under investigation, but no one ever did. If you wanted to wreck Trump's chances, all you had to do was leak that he was being investigated by the FBI, and no one ever did. But they sure as hell came out and said Hillary was, we have to reopen that investigation. Mm-hmm. Then the Republicans kept trying to get Comey to say that collusion and conspiracy are synonymous, seemingly gearing up for a semantics battle when the bombs start dropping.
Yeah.
They can't argue the facts, so they're going to try to taint the language. Mm-hmm. And Republicans have a history of doing this. We talked about this last week, like referring to family reunification as chain migration, or the estate tax as the death tax, or advanced medical directives as death panels. And now they're trying to confuse people into thinking that collusion equals conspiracy, but it doesn't. And Comey wouldn't budge on that point. Collusion can also mean aiding and abetting, and he said that several times. And Seth Abramson did a great thread about this on Twitter, so check that out if you get a chance. Something that stood out to me is when Republican Ratliff questioned Comey about Loretta Lynch talking to Bill Clinton on the tarmac. Remember that?
Yeah.
Which Republicans have been trying to hammer over and over again as a reason Comey went rogue and didn't include Lynch in his decision not to prosecute Hillary Rodham Clinton, and that's why he should have been fired and why he was fired. Which is particularly hilarious because this week, Kushner and Matthew fucking Whitaker took a trip together on Marine One. And then Ratliff asked Comey, "Making false public statements ordinarily is not a crime, correct?" And Comey said, "That's correct. Thank goodness for a lot of people." Always a funny guy.
Yeah.
For dad humor, but
Very
funny.
cute.
Adorable. Finally, we get to the problem surrounding the FBI New York field office. This is what I was looking for. They sometimes refer to the New York field office as Trumplandia. There was a lot of Hillary haters in there. And we often get a lot of flack here on Mueller, She Wrote for having Comey as my homie stickers. Mostly because a lot of folks believe, and rightfully so, that his reopening of the Hillary email case is what cost her the election. We have maintained that Comey did not have a choice because Giuliani was leaking and some FBI agents in New York were conspiring and threatening to leak the Wiener laptop, which is the evidence at the heart of reopening the Clinton case, to the public, which forced Comey to come out ahead of it so he could control the narrative. Comey said, and they sat on this laptop till right up to the election in the New York field office.
Yeah.
It seems like there's definitely a conspiracy to...
It was their Hail Mary. They were waiting to use it,
Yeah, and Comey said he was indeed concerned about a leak problem at that field office. What we don't understand is why Comey fell for it, if he was being set up. This is currently an investigation into the political leaks. There's currently an investigation into those leaks by Inspector General Horowitz, but it's taking way too long to release, and we can't figure that out. Perhaps it's because it could damage the Mueller investigation, because it involves Giuliani and Eric Prince and probably others, including like Bannon and Priebus, or maybe Junior, or maybe Pence.
Yeah, Indictment 1 Junior.
Indictment 1 and Individual 1 Trump.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, Individual 1 Junior.
But that's we've been saying this and we don't know, but the IG report on Comey came out a long time ago, and presumably this report would be done, but I think they're waiting because there's people in this report that are implicated in Mueller's investigation, and they want to wait until those indictments come out.
That would make sense. Yeah. And I feel like Comey probably fell for it because he's so sanctimonious, as we said before. I think he's the kind of by the book guy that wouldn't see it coming because he goes by the book. And now after he got played, he's like, okay, now I'm going to start playing by my own rules a little more. Like he seemed to speak out more after the fact.
Yeah. And the reality is that there was nothing he could do to stop those leaks. Everyone's like, well, he was in charge. It's like, yeah, but that's why they're called leaks.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're going to, when they're going to happen and where they're going to come from. And I don't know. We'll find out. Like I said, if Comey is an a-hole, I'll stand up and say Comey's an a-hole all day.
We'll be the first. But I just don't think there's enough evidence to say that he did it on his own merit. I think he was cornered.
And they most definitely aren't going to release anything that gives a black eye to the FBI. They're just not going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they even though the field office in New York was probably, and most definitely leaking with Giuliani, I don't think that anyone's going to be happy with coming out and saying that the FBI fucked up.
No, that's a bad position to take right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, guys, Butina's teed up. Erickson's going to be indicted. We got the Manafort and Cohen and Flynn reports. The subpoenas are coming in for the Trump emoluments case. The Eastern District of Virginia case is moving ahead in the Flynn case for Turkish lobbying, along with a state prosecution case moving forward on the Manafort lobbying case. Mueller says the Senate can start subpoenaing witnesses in the obstruction case, indicating he's wrapping that up. Everything's lining up in this grand plan Mueller's been working on diligently for the last 18 months. So stick with us. Things are about to get interesting. We'll be right back. Hey, Mueller junkies. I wanted to let you know about another great podcast called TBD with Tina Brown. I absolutely love this podcast, and she was the editor-in-chief at Vanity Fair and The New Yorker, so she's had the opportunity to sit down with the world's most important and interesting people and hear their thoughts on the zeitgeist. And on her new podcast, TBD with Tina Brown, she invites you to listen to her candid conversations with writers, politicos, crime sleuths, journalists, and the newsmakers of tomorrow's social debates. And she dares to ask the questions that no one else will, which I really appreciate. She digs into the topics that will shape tomorrow's world, and she does it with style, which is so important to us at Mueller, She Wrote. Some of her upcoming guests include Jill Soloway, who I love, Michael Douglas, Aaron Sorkin, who's an incredible writer, and many more. So you have to go and subscribe to TBD with Tina Brown on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this right now. Again, go ahead and subscribe to TBD with Tina Brown on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll be glad you did. All right, welcome back. Hot notes. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time for Hot Notes. Today, in her Racial Maddow segment, Jaleesa is going to tell us about an undocumented immigrant who worked as a maid since 2013 at Trump's New Jersey golf course in Bedminster, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
But first, the NRA could be in more hot water. And Jordan, you have that information for us.
I do, yeah. So some great reporting came out this week that the NRA potentially was coordinating with the Trump campaign, or I should say their media organizations that were handling all of their ads were coordinating with each other. So as we remember, the NRA spent $30 million to elect Donald Trump. Most of that money went to television ads. To produce the ads, they turned to the media strategy firm Red Eagle Media. That name just screams cover up.
Yeah, it also screams Russia.
Absolutely. It's the classic naming structure of animals, colors, and freedom. It's always the same shit. In late October 2016, the NRA bought up a whole bunch of ad spots for a certain very specific demographic in Norfolk, Virginia. And they were very pro-Trump, obviously, and very anti-Hillary. And around the same time, the Trump campaign purchased a series of political ads in that same area aimed at that same demographic and did so through the media strategy company American Media and Advocacy Group, also known as AMAG. So,
AMAG.
Yeah.
Is that MAGA?
Right? Oh, I talk about that.
Oh,
I talk about that. Yeah. But there goes my riff. It's okay.
You can pretend I didn't say it.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. I have more comedic integrity than that. The timing and nature of these ads for the NRA and then the Trump campaign might seem merely coincidental, but it turns out that both of these firms are affiliated with a major conservative media consulting firm, National Media Research, Planning, and Placement. These companies are so intertwined that the ads from both the NRA and the Trump campaign were actually signed off on by the exact same guy, someone named John Farrell. He's National Media CFO. So now the juicy part. This kind of coordination, it's apparently considered to be in violation of FEC regulation, according to experts. The same person that is acting as an agent for one group is not supposed to be acting as an agent in direct coordination with the other. The reason this is so problematic for, ones you can predict yourselves, I'm sure, is that this means that national media was acting through two separate cover agencies, essentially, to bombard the exact same group of people with the same messaging at the same time. This is all apparently in violation of campaign finance law, like I said, and essentially creates this megaphone effect to a certain group of people when you get to coordinate with two separate organizations. That's why it's not okay to do. It's an unfair advantage. Former chair of the FEC, Ann Ravel, said, quote, "I don't think I've ever seen a situation where illegal coordination seems more obvious. It is so blatant that it doesn't even seem sloppy. Everyone involved probably just thinks there aren't going to be any consequences."
Yeah, it's almost like they just didn't even realize the laws surrounding PACs and dark money and the donations, and how you can't coordinate with the campaign that you're raising the money for, because we don't know where those donors are coming from. And,
right.
and when you do something like that, your donations have to be limited to $5,000, and here we've got $30 million.
Yeah, and I think even if they were aware, like you were saying, Jordan, they didn't think they would get caught. White collar crime, we talked about this. It's at an all-time low, 20-year low, I think, like in terms of being actually brought to justice.
Prosecuted. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, so research discovered that AMAG, that firm that Trump's campaign used, doesn't have a single employee or contact that cannot be found at national media. So if you cross-reference everyone, there's not a single unique actor.
So it's almost like the NRA's ad campaign agency that they were using created an offshoot to do Trump's ads.
It's more so this parent company, what it looks like, created those two separate offshoots, assigned them to the NRA and then Trump's campaign respectively.
So maybe that was their attempt to separate them?
Oh yeah, on paper, for sure.
But that's the same fucking dude
yeah,
signing off on everything.
Exactly.
Like,
if you look at it,
at least hire two other people. Like, just hire two other people and put them over there, and then that would have probably been at least a little less obvious.
Yeah. No, it is so obvious. It's offensively obvious.
And that's what you're saying about it. It doesn't even seem
That's
sloppy.
what she was saying.
Yeah.
They didn't even try. They literally just created these essentially shell firms that they're using to do this. Other major clients, also fun fact, of national media include the RNC and other major GOP candidates, so that's not a surprise there. And if it wasn't already obvious that these groups are all basically the same group, corporate FEC and FCC records for all three groups, this is that parent one and then the two assigned, one to Trump and one to the NRA, records for all of these groups list the addresses of one would be 815 Slater's Lane, and the other is 817 Slater's Lane, a pair of adjacent brick buildings that share a parking lot in the historic Old Town section of Alexandria, Virginia.
So 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
And 21 Jump Street.
Exactly. And they couldn't even get three addresses. They had two addresses for three companies. At least get a one-on-one match.
Yeah, they really did not suspect to get caught for this shit.
Open one in Delaware, and then open the...
Yeah, come on. Try harder. Now, the NRA could have spent as much as they wanted to on Trump, but per federal election law, if an independent group begins coordinating with a campaign and they're sharing information, they lose their independent status and the right to spend as much as they want, and they're now supposed to be held to that $5,000 in-kind donation limit, which they only exceeded by $29,995,000.
It's close.
Yeah, very close.
That's close.
I had to get a calculator on that one. I'm not proud.
Well, you can let that slide.
Yeah. And so the people who work for those consultant firms that are working for two different groups at the same time, for example, Trump and the NRA, they're actually supposed to sign, and this is on the media firm side, not the people within those actual organizations, but the people in the firm assigned to those two different groups. They are supposed to sign a pledge not to coordinate campaign/election information with those two clients, between those two clients. The pledge also serves as a formal acknowledgement that there are civil and criminal penalties for doing exactly what they did.
So they did know, because they had to sign a pledge.
Yep. And so what's going to happen? Unfortunately, experts believe it's unlikely that any investigations would be started against the NRA or the Trump campaign. Apparently, to do so requires unanimous consent by the FEC's current 4 commissioners. There's supposed to be 6, but there's only 4 right now. And apparently those 4 have been in complete ideological gridlock for a long time. So the chances of them coming to any sort of unanimous vote on that is slim to none. The DOJ also has the authority to launch an investigation, but that is extremely uncommon for them, and there's really no precedent for that. So all of this makes me think that these motherfuckers knew that the chances of them facing penalties was small, so they just did it anyway.
It could end up in Mueller's report to the Senate Judiciary Committee or to the House Judiciary Committee, which is like the the Jaworski roadmap that we learned from Watergate. It could put it in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Congress can investigate that if they felt the need, because this isn't the only NRA problem that they're having.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, they would also have to prove that people within the NRA and the Trump campaign were aware that those media, or that one media group essentially, was doing that. So on top of prosecuting the media group, they would then have to find some proof that the NRA and the Trump campaign were like aiding and abetting that.
That law needs more teeth than that, honestly. I mean, if you're going to be able to say corporations are people and they can donate unlimited amounts of money to campaigns, you really need to solidify the wall between the campaign and the donors, and to make it so hard to prosecute when you just do this blatant dumb, we'll just make two companies next door to each other and do it. To be able to get away with it by just doing that is
ridiculous.
Not okay.
Yeah, and how the public, all of us, know that there's copies of those documents showing that they blatantly lied and have a cover-up companies. It's like, that's so bad for the public to know that and know that there's nothing really that they can do because the FEC is in gridlock.
Yeah,
like,
they're basically
what?
just saying fuck your votes. We don't, you're like,
That's-
thanks.
So bad for morale.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad shit for morale right now.
It's not good of morale time.
Speaking of bad morale in the workplace,
Yeah.
Julissa, what do you got for us in your racial meta segment?
That is such a smooth transition, AJ, because the name of the woman I'm going to talk about, her last name is Morales.
Whoa.
Yeah, there you go, people. So on Thursday, the New York Times published an article called Making President Trump's Bed, a Housekeeper Without Papers. Specifically at Trump's New Jersey golf course, an undocumented immigrant named Victorina Morales has worked as a maid since 2013. And she said she never imagined to see such important people up close. And in 1999, Victorina left Guatemala and illegally entered the U.S. Just 5 years ago, she began working at Trump's National Golf Club in Bedminster.
So Guatemala, so she was in one of those caravans then.
Not recently, but one of them.
So she definitely has all kinds of just leprosy. And
Yeah,
exactly.
violence.
She's probably an ISIS person.
Oh, definitely.
That was my favorite. There's ISIS people.
Yeah, that is insane.
ISIS people.
They're just going for the keywords to scare people. And I guess it worked for some of them.
Damn it.
But yeah, she's been in the U.S. since 1999. And basically, she just worked for Trump for the last 5 years. During this time, she made his bed, cleaned his toilet, dusted his crystal golf trophies.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she also washed and
He has a
ironed.
golf trophy. He sucks at golf.
That's
and
what I was
cheats.
thinking.
How does he
Participation trophies
He
exist
made
too.
him. He made his Time magazine cover.
Or just pays people off.
You remember the fake Time
Yeah.
magazine cover that he had hanging in his bathroom or whatever?
I would not put it past him. Yeah.
I just imagine him just swatting people with clubs.
It's just regular crystal statues with Post-it notes on it that says Trump is the best golfer.
You tried.
Things remembered made it for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And she also apparently ironed his white boxers, khaki trousers.
He's a boxers guy.
Yeah.
I would
yeah.
have taken him for a briefs guy.
I always thought briefs too. I could have sworn that Stormy described him as in briefs when they were, but maybe he switches it up. So yeah, she also just folded his sheets and towels. Apparently, though, everything that belongs to the Trump family is washed with separate detergent in a separate washing machine. So, privilege wherever you can find it.
Like, so the
Separate from-
family stuff doesn't have to touch each other?
I guess from the other members of the golf club course.
He's got his own private washing area.
Yeah,
so
yes.
He doesn't have to.
The Trump
his-
family is
His
separate.
clothes don't have to mingle with that of the commoners.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Victorina said, quote, Trump is extremely meticulous about everything. If he arrives suddenly, everyone runs around like crazy. So she even says she's not the only undocumented worker employed at the golf course, which we would have figured.
No.
Yeah, there's a woman named Sandra Diaz, who is now a legal resident of the U.S. She says that she was working there from 2010 to 2013 when she was undocumented, and both women said they worked for many years alongside other undocumented workers at the golf course, but they couldn't specify how many. However, at least 2 supervisors at the golf course were aware of the undocumented workers, and they actually took steps to cover it up. Which is all ironic because Trump made border security and the fight to protect American jobs the centerpiece of his presidency. And I have no problem with these women working here. It's just the hypocrisy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the story.
Yeah.
It's just that Trump has undocumented immigrants working for him, which again, we 100% support.
Totally.
But that because he's that guy, it's like when the Republicans are like, that Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac with Clinton, it's unacceptable, and meanwhile Whitaker and Kushner are on Marine One taking a trip together, hanging out.
Totally.
To the pair of walking dildos.
Yeah.
And now we've got I mean, we could do a 60-hour-long podcast
Hypocrisy
on the
now.
hypocrisies.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, whenever Trump wants to get his toilet cleaned, all of his values also go down the toilet. So, seriously, during the campaign, Trump bragged that he was using
he's jealous of that sweet Putin bidet team.
Oh, that's right. That we just learned about today.
They have jackets.
The pink ladies.
Oh, my goodness. I love it.
I'm going to hell.
The red
There's
maggots.
an asshole on the back of it.
Yeah, I believe it. I might buy one just to frame it. So during the campaign, Trump actually bragged that he was using an electronic verification system called E-Verify to ensure that no undocumented workers would be hired by his businesses. And this was after he opened his Trump Hotel in Washington. He specifically said, quote, "We didn't have one illegal immigrant on the job." He sounds like, what was that president that's like, mark my words, no new immigrants? Like,
that was Bush.
It was Bush? Okay. Yeah, taxes? Yeah.
Read my lips.
There we go. Yeah.
No new. And I don't want to look at your lips, man. Gross. We're all good.
Very good point. At the same time that Trump was saying all this, Victorina and Sandra and all these people were working at the golf course in New Jersey. So I just imagine that Trump was like, oh, you mean do I have illegals in Washington? No, they're just in New Jersey. My bad. So, just semantics. And apparently Trump wasn't always a racist piece of shit to them either, because surprisingly, Sandra recalled one time after she finished cleaning his villa, he told her, "You did a really great job," and he handed her a $100 bill.
Well, she's not black.
Yeah, exactly. She's got that going for her. Yeah, and I guess when Trump first met Victorina, he asked her where she was from, and when she said Guatemala, he said, quote, "Guatemalans are hardworking people," and then he gave her a $50 bill.
Huh.
Yeah.
You just liked her because her name had Victory in it.
Probably. Yeah. So, she said she thought to herself, God bless him, he's a good man. But then later that same year, Trump had an outburst over an orange stain on his collar. And Sandra tried to tell him that it was...
Don't go to the spray-on tan.
Exactly.
That's your fault,
She
dude.
tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen. So she's suing him now. No, I'm kidding. There's more to it. But these undocumented workers were in really close quarters with some of the most powerful people in the world.
God, can you imagine trying to get the orange marks off of his sheets and
It's
pillowcases
impossible.
and
She's
shirts?
literally the most prestigious maid in the world, and she cannot get it out.
Yeah.
She can't do it.
Just buy a new shirt, you cheap ass.
Seriously, yeah.
You stole everyone's money, use it.
He was having a bad day, I bet. Just taking it out on them. But yeah, these ladies, they're around really powerful people, which I think is kind of cool. It at least proves to me that Trump doesn't assume they're all rapists and murderers, right, AG? Like you were saying. And Victorina in particular said that she got to clean Trump's villa while he was even watching TV nearby. And she got to stand around when potential cabinet members were brought in for interviews, and even when John Kelly would visit. So she's been around all these people that are making the laws that stop her from being a citizen. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And in other news, Mueller has interviewed her 6 times for a total of 100 hours.
That'd be so cool. Yeah, and just to wrap it all up, even though Victorina appreciates her job, she said that she still feels very hurt by Trump's racist remarks during the campaign and as president. In fact, that's the whole reason she's speaking out now. She said that and the abusive comments from a supervisor about her intelligence and immigration status. And she said, quote, "We're tired of the abuse, the insults, the way he talks about us when he knows that we're here helping him make money. We sweat it out to attend to his every need, and we have to put up with his humiliation." So Victorina and Sandra approached the New York Times through their immigration lawyer in New Jersey. And Victorina says that she understands that she could be fired or deported for coming forward, but that's just how important this is to her. And she also recently applied for protection under the asylum laws and is currently exploring a lawsuit for discrimination and workplace abuse. So that's where they are on that.
Well, kudos to them for coming forward. That's
Totally.
super brave.
Really brave.
I use a pseudonym, so that shows you.
Yeah, at least you're protected, right? That's the
Absolutely.
idea, is that you at least have a law that helps you, and they're trying to work with the system, but it sucks that they're working with the most racist system that I've ever been around to see, and so it's that much harder for them, but they're trying, yeah.
That's cool that they came forward. That's amazing reporting, honestly. Kudos, New York Times.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, guys. You ready for
Y'all ready for
the
this?
money show? Oh, yeah. I want to approach this from a 30,000-foot view because we get into the weeds later, to borrow some phrases from my time in the military.
I like that.
3 major filings came out this week, as we all know: Flynn, Cohen, and Manafort. I want to make sure everyone understands the difference between them. The Flynn document is a sentencing recommendation. It says because of Flynn's substantial assistance, we recommend no jail time. The Cohen document is a 2-parter: Mueller's sentencing memorandum and the Southern District of New York's sentencing memorandum. And then the Manafort document, however, is not a sentencing recommendation, as we thought. It's a submission in support of the government's breach determination. Basically, here's why we're backing out of our plea agreement with Manafort. And we have all the evidence. If you want to see it in court, just let us know. We have the documents, text messages, emails, and witness testimony. So the Manafort document is not a sentencing memorandum. And I just want you to bear, he's not yet been charged with crimes of collusion, as outlined in the redacted Rosenstein memo that outlined the scope of the Mueller probe, nor has he been charged with crimes of conspiracy with Russia. And as you know, if you've been listening, I believe Manafort is facing superseding indictments for crimes of collusion, and since the government is backing out of the plea agreement, they may now charge Manafort with those crimes, which he will have to enter a plea for. If he pleads not guilty, we go back to trial. If he pleads guilty, he goes to jail, but upsets his Russian handlers. Or he could even try to cooperate again, though I'm not sure Mueller would have him back at this point, after the scathing report he filed this week about what a giant fucking liar he is. So
Colluser.
He is. He's a collusory. He's a collusory man. And then I talked to Renato Mariotti offline, and I said, "Hey, why is no one talking about these additional crimes of collusion?" And he said, he might not even charge these additional crimes. He might just lay them all out in the actual sentencing memorandum. He doesn't get sentenced until March 5th, and just lay those all out in the other memorandum instead of officially charging him. So we'll find out. Either way, that he either committed these crimes and he'll be, charged, or they'll just include him in his sentencing memo.
Right.
At the end. So let's go through these filings. First, the Flynn document. While it was highly redacted and didn't give any big clues into Russian collusion, it did say that Flynn was assisting the special counsel with 3 different investigations. An unnamed criminal investigation, the Russia investigation came second, and a 3rd totally redacted investigation that doesn't even indicate if it's criminal, which means it could be a counterintelligence investigation or a criminal investigation or a civil investigation. It doesn't even say. Of note in the documents is that in the first criminal investigation, Mueller says Flynn provided substantial assistance, which is the gold standard of cooperation. It goes on to say he provided assistance in the Russia probe, just regular assistance in the Russia probe, and he gave useful information in the totally redacted investigation. So there's 3 levels of cooperation, but he gave the most substantial cooperation in that first criminal investigation, not even the Russia probe. Mueller recommended no jail time. And indicated that this was because Flynn cooperated early and eagerly and with alacrity and with first-hand honest information, meaning he was in the room. This verbiage leads me to believe that this was a public statement to all involved that if you cooperate, and you cooperate early, and you cooperate hard, you'll get off with no jail time. And that to me is a clear counterpunch to Trump's dangling of pardons, effectively cutting his legs off at the knees.
Yeah, and you'll get a little gold star that says, "I cooperated." And
I
I'll
know
send
my
you on your way.
address.
Yeah. A little bumper sticker. My kid is cooperating.
I'm a cooperating witness in the Mueller probe. My kid is a cooperating. I'm going to get Trump that bumper sticker because it's probably going to be true.
Oh, snap.
He's got a couple kids that are probably going to cooperate. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's saying to people like Kush and Ivanka and Junior, like, hey, man, cooperate early, cooperate good. You might get a no jail time recommendation, or you can try the pardon thing, and I'll find a way to, that'll be illegal, and you'll still go to jail. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So he's like, come to where the pardons are, which is this side of the aisle, not that side.
Exactly.
And it's not a pardon, but you know what I mean. Come to where you can get no jail time. So that's he's countering that pardon dangle situation, which is going on openly and in the public for everyone to see, with Trump not taking it off the table. And I think Giuliani said today that he should, somebody said today, I have to look it up, that he should pardon Manafort.
Yeah, that Trump should just out in the open. People are going to look back on this and be like, how did you guys let him get away with all of this in real time? But I think that's the point, is it takes so long when you're going through it.
It was Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz. Okay.
Yeah, douchebag.
Gaetz.
Yeah. Date rapey Gaetz.
Mm-hmm. Date rapey Gaetz. Yeah, that's going to stick.
He's the one who came out and just openly told Trump he should pardon Manafort. They just pardoned him.
Ridiculous.
So there are 2 documents in the Cohen filing. I'm going to go over the Cohen stuff first. One from Mueller and one from the Southern District of New York. Southern District of New York lays out all his crimes and isn't really recommending leniency at all, basically saying he's a bad hombre and he committed crimes from a place of privilege and he should pay for it. They were mad.
Yeah,
the
I like that
SDNY is like,
language.
we aren't even fucking around right now. They said, here's my take on it. On the Mueller Cohen doc. Okay, so this was filed in tandem with the document from SDNY, but I want to talk about the Mueller filing. It was only 7 pages. The SDNY one was like 40. They were angry. So after they get through the business of saying, and this is the Mueller document, after they get through the business of saying Cohen admitted to lying to Congress and the public about when the Trump Tower Moscow deal had ended, he told us January 2016 when it was actually June 2016. It says that he did this to support the president's narrative and minimize links between Russia and Trump, and to give the false impression that the Tower deal ended before the Iowa caucus and the first primaries. But not only does it say he did this to trick the public into thinking Trump had no Russia ties, but to, quote, limit the ongoing Russia investigations being conducted by Congress and the special counsel's office, unquote. It then goes on to say Cohen kept lying about this in 2017 and into 2018 to Congress, and it wasn't until September 2018 that he told the truth. He even lied about the Trump Tower Moscow in the first meeting he had with special counsel that he had with Mueller, that Cohen set up. He's like, let me come in and talk to you guys. And they came in and still said that the Trump Tower stopped in January, and they're like, dude.
Yeah.
Idiot.
So
I mean, it makes sense if you're going to lie. You make it seem like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And then it says Cohen's cooperation starting in his second proffer session. And remember, he was still lying about Trump Tower Moscow in the first one. It was significant for, this is the second proffer session, was significant for 4 aspects. First, Cohen provided info about his own contacts with Russia during the campaign and his discussion with others in that respect. Cohen also provided information about Russian outreach to him, including in November 2015 when he received contact for and spoke to a, quote, Russian national, unquote, who claimed to be a trusted person in the Russian Federation who could offer, quote, political synergy, which sounds collusion-y, and, quote, synergy on a government level, unquote. According to BuzzFeed, that person is Dmitry Klokov, and he made several attempts to set up meetings with Putin and Trump through Cohen, promising such a meeting would have a phenomenal impact, not only politically, but in business as well, alluding to the Trump Tower Moscow. Mm-hmm. So Cohen didn't follow up on that because he was already working. It says this meeting never took place, or Cohen never followed up on this. But there's a footnote that's very important that says the reason Cohen didn't follow up on this is because he already had a Trump Tower deal in the works.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
So that's really important. He didn't just, wasn't like he didn't take the meeting. Now, it's not when it comes to conspiracy, because you don't have to actually follow through with the Trump Tower Moscow in order for it to be conspiracy. You just have to be you just have to conspire to make it happen.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, and then he also didn't bring that information to federal prosecutors too, because that's like an attempt at illegally influencing a campaign.
Right, and they came to the campaign and said, if the Russians are probably going to try to talk to you guys, and just let us know, okay? Could you? Wink, wink. No. Cohen, the second thing in the 4 things, Cohen provided special counsel office with useful information about a certain discrete Russia-related matters core to the investigation that he obtained by virtue of his regular contacts with the company, which is the Trump Organization, executives during the campaign. That means there's shit he learned by hanging out at the Trump org that's core to Mueller's investigation. So that's interesting. And I don't know if this has to do with maybe going to Prague and the payments for the hackers and all that other stuff that's in the Steele dossier. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But again, more in the Steele dossier has been proven. None of it's been disproven. So keep that in mind.
I still want to see like a Kardashian-style movie poster for Cohen, like Cohen Takes Prague or something, like with his bags packed and,
Oh, like Crossroads with Britney Spears,
oh,
but
yeah.
with Cohen. Like
Crossroads for pardons, or...
he gets in a pink convertible and goes and talks to Prague.
It's beautiful.
Eat, pray, lie.
That's my new favorite. Eat, pray, lie.
And Cohen has a big Julia Roberts wig on. Eat, pray, lie. I love it. The third thing, Cohen provided relevant and useful information concerning his contacts with persons connected to the White House during 2017 and 2018. So this kept going. And then Cohen described, number 4, Cohen described the circumstances of preparing and circulating his response to the congressional inquiries about Trump Tower Moscow while continuing to accept responsibility for the false statements in them. This makes it seem to me like the obstruction investigation is alive and well regarding conspiracies to lie to Congress and lie to the public, especially given the news on Kelly, who joined in August of 2017. He didn't come in until August of 2017. And all the cooperation with McGahn. And he used public deception to obstruct justice and not just to mislead the public, if that makes sense. It's important because he didn't just lie to Congress, but he lied to the public. And that is important because it was a message to other witnesses involved in Trump Tower Moscow on how to lie about Trump Tower Moscow. That means everyone else who testified to Congress and lied about the Trump Tower Moscow ending in January 2016, sorry. They were basing their stories on what Cohen had said publicly. And that could have been what spurred the Senate to send over that batch of transcripts that you were talking about, Jordan, last week in Hot Notes, from others who may have lied to them. And that could be akin to conspiracy to obstruct. And Cohen's lies also obscured the fact that Trump Tower Moscow was lucrative. Because, you don't come out and say, we could get hundreds of millions of dollars from Russia while I'm running for office. And they hacked the election. That seems weird.
That all seems way too coincidental.
Yeah, and all despite that, the Supreme Supreme Counsel's office.
Yeah, with sour cream and tomatoes.
The special counsel's office tells the judge to go ahead and sentence him for the SDNY stuff, but don't add any time for the charge of lying to Congress, because perhaps what he eventually told the truth about could implicate many others in the crime of lying to Congress. We're going to find that out in the coming weeks. It could help him roll people like Kushner or Jr. or Ivanka or Bannon or everyone else who basically said Trump Tower was over early and coordinated their story with Cohen.
Yeah, it's going to be the first domino.
Yeah. It's a little tell there.
That's crazy, you guys. The Cohen SDNY document, the Southern District of New York prosecutors. This one's 40 pages. It's a lot less nice. My favorite thing is on page 33, the word lodestar is used. So,
Interesting.
Remember the op-ed, the anonymous op-ed?
Lodestar Supernova, yeah.
Yeah, our episode's called Lodestar Supernova. But they use the word lodestar. Like, why do they keep just peppering that in there? Like, that's just funny to me.
Yeah. Or they're trying to tell us something.
Or it's the guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're really into that word. So we already knew that Cohen implicated the president when he pleaded guilty to 8 charges in the Southern District of New York, 6 for tax evasion and two for counts of campaign finance violations, where he said he was directed to do so by the president, basically making Trump an unnamed co-conspirator, unindicted co-conspirator. And that was in August. But last week, Cohen was back in court, and he pleaded guilty to lying to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow as part of the Mueller investigation. And not with the same prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. These are different. And that's why we have 2 separate documents here. So now all the felonies combined are being heard by the same judge, and Cohen is asked for time served or no jail time. But the Southern District of New York filed a really mad, angry document as to what a giant piece of shit Cohen is. So Cohen is set to be sentenced next Wednesday, December 12th, on all of his felonies. And this document says he committed 4 distinct federal crimes. Quote, now he seeks extraordinary leniency, but the crimes committed by Cohen were marked by a pattern of deception and were evidently hidden from his friends and family. Unquote. So the Southern District of New York recognizes that Cohen provided assistance to the special counsel, and they clarified that Cohen does not have a cooperation agreement. And they say he should not be given credit for a traditional cooperating agreement as a traditional cooperating witness would get. They thereby recommend a substantial term of imprisonment that reflects, quote, a modest downward variance from the applicable guidelines range. So maybe give him a tiny break, but they want to throw the book at him. So SDNY says, we'd be cool with shaving a little time, but this dude's a scumbag. The applicable guideline is 4 to 6 years. Probation department is recommending 3.5.
Yeah. They don't have anything to gain from him like Mueller does, so that was smart of the special counsel to shift that over to SDNY, because they don't have to sit there and be like, thanks for telling us all this stuff about an investigation we're not looking into. They just get to totally do whatever they need to do.
And a normal cooperating witness would have to tell you every crime he's ever committed in his life and implicate all sorts of people, and that's what SDNY expects when they bring in people like this. So when he's not going to tell them anything but these things, they're like, fuck you then.
Yeah.
We recommend almost the full jail sentence that you're supposed to face. No. They're mad. They're like, this is not, we don't like you. So it goes on to outline his 4 crimes over several years, which include willful tax evasion, making false statements to a financial institution, lying to a bank, to get a loan, illegal campaign contributions, and lying to Congress, of course. They go on to say that what his crimes have in common is that they're all deceptive and they're all motivated by personal greed and ambition. And Cohen was already rich, so it pisses the prosecution off even more than if he were in need, which is a pretty interesting point of view, right? They're actually saying his crimes are worse because he's privileged, and I love that.
Yeah, that's really new to me. I'm beautiful, but this is a new kind of push for that in law. Yeah,
I was surprised to see that language in a court document.
Yeah, this was for us. Mm-hmm. This was written for us because they're like, the regular American is out there, voting, going to the polls, doing phone banks, knocking on doors, and here's this guy from the shadows influencing elections like an asshole.
Yeah.
And you're like,
they're listening to the people. I love that so much.
That's disenfranchising the voters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important, and they're saying that's why matters in the United States.
I completely agree, by the way, sentencing him to pretty much the full extent, at least in the SDNY case, because we've talked about this before. Yeah, he's cooperating now, but he's had an entire history of being a complete crook.
For so long.
Yeah, and this actually separating it, like you said, leaves Mueller to be a good cop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Meaning, come, talk to me. I won't recommend any jail time for you. Flynn, no jail time.
Exactly.
Be good and cooperate.
Because the cooperation with Mueller is way more important than the cooperation with SDNY.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's all important. You should be telling the truth all the time. But in terms of the implications for the greater investigation, it's good that Mueller is able to provide an incentive like that.
Yeah, it's good for Mueller to stay a good cop so that he can entice people to cooperate. Because in the face of all this public obstruction of justice, where where Trump's dangling pardons and everyone's releasing their testimony, so everyone can make it the same. Cohen went public with his. Corsi went public with his plea agreement. Manafort blew up his plea agreement. They're all just being totally out and open in public about the lies they say, so that everyone can tell the same lies.
I have a question for you, AG. Are you personally cool with Mueller letting someone like Cohen go for the sake of getting closer to Trump? Because I know it's a whole idea of flipping is to get the smaller fish out, but someone like Cohen, I'm like, man, he's done so much shady shit.
That's what the SDNY is doing.
Right.
He's not going to get off the hook. The SDNY is going to throw the book at him. He's going to get 4 to 5. He's going to serve his jail sentence.
No matter what Mueller does, that's going to be a separate thing that they do no matter what. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that was what this whole document was, this 40-page document. They're recommending pretty much the full jail time for his crimes, where Mueller's like, don't add any for me, but,
Okay, no extra.
It's good cop, bad cop. He's leaving the SDNY to be the bad cop so that Mueller can maintain his track record of going easy on cooperating witnesses.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about Cohen getting let off the hook, because it sounds like the Southern District of New York is not letting him off the hook, and Mueller would know that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a really smart move by Mueller, and I was just going to say that Mueller knew that SDNY would do that, and he wouldn't get off the hook completely. And it's important that he doesn't get off the hook completely for the continued, justice of that department. It's like if he got off on nothing,
that would be crazy. That was what I was worried about.
That's what bums me out about Flynn.
Yeah.
Flynn got he doesn't have a tandem Southern District of New York lawsuit trial going on. So
yeah, that's why I try to find comfort in the fact that Flynn is a bad guy who only seemed to be briefly bad.
I don't know. I think he was bad for a long time, but
yeah,
we'll
probably.
find out. And it's extra sad because he's a veteran.
That
makes me mad.
Soft spot.
No, it makes me mad that he would.
Oh, even more mad at him?
Yeah.
On the flip side for me, I'm just like, oh, but he did so much good. He's also an asshole. So maybe that's just being the first, like Mueller said, being the first guy to flip no matter how bad it was. He was like, that guy's getting off the best.
I personally think 3-star admirals in the Navy should be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
No, good point.
I guess everyone's the same. Fine, everyone's the same. But the big news in this filing, guys, is the implication of Trump in the campaign finance violations. Now, we knew from Cohen's previous hearing, when he pled guilty, that he says the president directed him to violate the law. But in this document, the prosecution spells out that Trump did, in fact, order the payoffs, which amount to illegal campaign contributions, and they lay out all the proof in detail. It says Cohen played a pivotal role in purchasing the rights of 2 stories about women who claimed they have had affairs with Trump, so as to suppress the stories and prevent them from having a negative impact on Trump's election. That's the intent. And that's important, because that's We've had this with John Edwards, where they were trying to get him on the same thing, but they couldn't prove that the intent was to change the election because it happened a year before the election when he was paying for his mistress's apartment or whatever.
There was enough room in there in between. Yeah.
And they never told anybody about it. So it's not like, but Cohen coordinated his actions with one or more members of the Trump campaign. It says one or more members of the Trump campaign through meetings and phone calls about the fact and the nature and the timing of the payments. One or more. That's big. And that he acted in coordination with and at the direction of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So,
that's a little more on the nose there, yeah.
Definitely. That means more subpoenas and indictments to come.
Yeah. So this isn't just Cohen saying it happened. This is federal prosecutors in New York saying this happened.
Yeah, yeah.
They funneled them through Trump's real estate businesses, these payments. And the filing gives all the details about how the payments were made. So now it's not Cohen. Like I said, it's not just him saying Trump committed felonies. Federal prosecutors, three of them in Southern District, New York, they're saying it. And they are laying out the proof that it happened. The government has proof that Trump committed these felonies. So not only did he defraud voters by influencing the elections from the shadows, Cohen, but he told people in text messages he thought he was going to get a prominent position in the White House because of what he had done. And when he didn't, he set up a slush fund, Essential Consultants. It's fucking essential. He set that up and started taking money from businesses trying to buy access and influence in the White House without providing anything really of value in return. And all told, he made more than $4 million before those contracts were terminated.
So he's like, oh, you're not going to promote me, so I'm going to make money on the side from you anyways for doing nothing.
So while he may have helped the special counsel's office, the Southern District, New York, don't give a shit. They want him to go to prison. Yeah. And that was their recommendation.
He's an asshole.
Yeah. All right, Manafort. Time for Manafort.
Oh my God, I forgot there was more.
Oh, yes. Lots is redacted in this. First, Mueller wants the court to know that he's about to lay out a bunch of lies and that he can prove Manafort lied in a hearing with documentary evidence and witness testimony if the court wants to do that. It also includes a motion to file under seal factual material that relates to pending investigations and uncharged individuals. So there's a second document that was filed under seal. That's the one I wish I could read. It then goes on to describe the case law that allows for the prosecution of to breach the cooperation agreement. It lays forth how Manafort breached his agreement. So this document is not a sentencing memorandum. We thought it was going to be here's every single crime he ever committed and here's how you should sentence him. It's not that. It's here's why we blew up the plea agreement. That's all it is. Here's the lies he told after he started cooperating. This is why we're blowing up the plea agreement. And it only outlines those lies and crimes. It doesn't outlaw anything he did before or any of his collusionary stuff. Collusory. So the first thing, it says interactions with Kilimnik. So first he lied about interactions with Kilimnik. And if you remember, Konstantin Kilimnik is the guy who was indicted alongside Manafort. He's the guy who was the go-between between him and Deripaska, right? Like, he's the one who sent the message to Kilimnik, like, if I give up, campaign briefings to you that you sent to Deripaska, will this make us whole? Because he owed Deripaska like $19 million from a telecom deal that went shitty, right? So first, he lied about interactions with Kilimnik after he started cooperating, and then much of the document is redacted. It appears to say what he lied about and what really happened, both of which are redacted. And then it says the evidence included electronic communications and travel records, and when they showed those documents to Manafort, Manafort conceded. When he said, here's your travel documents. So he's like, oh yeah, I met with Kilimnik. We may, and he and Kilimnik discussed or may have discussed redacted at each meeting. So that's probably, I think that's Deripaska or the Trump campaign. Yeah. So there were multiple meetings, possibly one with Deripaska, and they have proof of Manafort's travel and maybe Deripaska's and Kilimnik's travel as well. And they discuss something that's been redacted. And then there's more redacted stuff about Kilimnik. The number 2 thing on there is Kilimnik's role in the obstruction conspiracy. And this is about Manafort reaching out to 2 witnesses through Kilimnik to get them to change their testimony. Manafort lied about this after he entered into his plea agreement. This is the thing where that blew up his bail and got him thrown in the clink.
The suborning perjury.
Yeah, and he continued to lie about it after he agreed to cooperate. Then he admitted he'd conspired with Kilimnik to suborn witnesses, trying to get them to exculpate him of FARA violations. Now, this is funny because every single thing that he lied about, he eventually Oh, yeah, I lied.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all in the last couple. This is after he started to cooperate. That's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Yeah.
He's just got to be like, dude, I'm going away for a long time. I'm just going to do whatever I can right now.
To stall, yeah.
Yeah, he's just pushing back the inevitable. He's already in jail because he's suborned those witnesses. And so it's like, you dumbass. And they won't let him wear a suit. He's got to wear his green jumpsuit. I love it.
Good.
The number 3 thing is payment to a firm working for Manafort. This is about a $125,000 payment Manafort lied about from firm A to entity B. And then there's a bunch of redactions. I can't guess what this was for, other than maybe a little conjecture. Perhaps it was about that whitewashed report on Timoshenko by the Skadden law firm, maybe. Or maybe a payoff for the conspiracy to lie about Farah, where he maybe paid those 2 people. I don't know.
My beans are on the first one, the whitewash.
It's all redacted, and I can only speculate. But it does say Mueller has documentary evidence that the payment was not what Manafort said it was about. So
That's all that matters.
I know. And then number 4 is mysterious. It's another Department of Justice investigation. This says that prior to the cooperation agreement, Manafort provided information about person name redacted that was pertinent to an investigation in another district. But after his agreement, he changed his story and gave up exculpatory information about the redacted person, and then changed it back when shown notes of his own testimony in the earlier proffer sessions prior to the plea agreement. So he can't even fucking remember what he lied about.
Yeah.
So he came in, he gave this information about name redacted, and then he came in after his plea agreement and said, changed his story about that guy, or lady, probably guy.
Right.
And then they said, but you said... and here's when you said, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what I meant. Like he can't even.
That's a true pathological liar right there.
They
get their lies mixed up. Yeah.
He's such a piece of shit. And then number 5, contact with the administration. After his plea agreement, Manafort said he didn't have direct or indirect communications with anyone in the administration.
You said no. The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
So here we go. Quote, the evidence demonstrates that Manafort had contact with administration officials, unquote. For example, in a text exchange from May 26, 2018, Manafort authorized a person to communicate with the Trump administration officials on Manafort's behalf. And Mueller had all the text communications. And this sounds like maybe that could have been that foldering thing that was going on when he was trying to get he had a spare laptop brought in. And but that was back in May. I don't know.
That's interesting that that might come up.
I don't know. But apart from all that, there was, like I said, a second document filed under seal about uncharged individuals and ongoing investigations. Those are those superseding indictments I've been talking about for a year. That's what's in there. And it's important to note that this is not the sentencing recommendation, like I said, for Manafort. And what I want to know, again, is why nobody's talking about what happens with the crimes he's committed that he's not been charged with. All the conspiracy crimes, collusory crimes, crimes... We asked, like I said, I asked Renato Mariotti about that. He's that law professor. He's the host of On Topic, the podcast, great podcast. And like I said, he said there's probably more conduct they could charge Manafort with, but it's more efficient to present the judges, yes, there are 2 judges, because there's 2 cases, who are already sentencing him so they can factor them in. In that case, we would hear about the crimes of collusion in the sentencing memorandum whenever that comes out, sometime before March 5th, unless it gets pushed back again.
All right.
Put some beans on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Those are the big 3.
Woo! That's my brain is so packed right now. Like that's a lot of information at once.
Why do you think they did that all in the same week?
That's just how the cards fell, man.
I guess so. That's pretty nuts, though.
I love it. I love that it all rolled out the same week.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
To get in a week, but I think the Cohen and the Manafort filings have separate redacted filings.
Yeah.
That we don't get to see.
Thanks for breaking that down too.
Yeah.
Because it was harder to process in real time when the news was rolling out. And now I'm like, oh, okay.
It was so much.
Yeah.
And people, I appreciate them going through the details and stuff, but to look at it big picture, I think is important. We have to kind of pull all that together and just remember that these aren't all the things.
There's always more.
It's all yet to come. And he can't release anything that could be, harmful to any open and ongoing investigation. So we knew that until and unless the Stone indictments came out,
there's a lot of redacted
that
stuff.
all this was going to be redacted.
Yeah.
We knew it.
But there's still so much from even the unredacted parts that I can't even imagine what an episode would look like if we got all the information.
Yeah, I want the second
They're
under
coming.
seal.
Yeah.
Memorandums.
Yeah, there's so much fun conjecture that came out of even the released redacted images. Like, people found out that the length of Donald J. Trump would be the exact same length as some of the redacted elements in this.
Yeah, Scott Stedman showed that. It was like
Pixel size.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I loved all the jokes that came out of it. The memes, the redacted memes.
Trump has tiny pixels. I'm sure. Yeah, the redact memes were good.
Yeah.
We posted a picture of the United States flag.
That was a good one.
That looked like a redacted document.
Yeah.
Where the stripes were the redaction.
They did the Outcast album cover. I think it was Stankonia or something like that, because it has like an American flag in the back, and they put the redacted picture over it. Yeah.
A mural went up.
Yeah.
A huge mural went up of the redacted documents.
People are creative, man.
I've got some great pictures of, instead of it saying Trump Tower International, it says Individual One Tower. And we should start referring to him as Individual One now.
As much as we can,
That's what he is.
That'd be a fun drinking game.
Or another nickname I came up with, and I'm sure that I'm not the first to come up with this, is that somebody was talking about the payments and how they were, made on accident or something like that. And I've said, oh, yeah, it must be just like how he accidentally must have just fallen into that Playmate. Maybe a couple times because he's a two-pump Trump. And then I left it at that. And then I said, I'll show myself out.
Two-pump Trump.
Yeah. And then I wanted to show myself out for saying I'll show myself out, because that's also kind of a hack
That's
joke.
beautiful. What if his slogan for 2020 is like 4 more pumps?
4 more pumps. Oh, nobody wants that.
No one.
All right, you guys. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to Mueller, She Wrote. The she in Mueller, She Wrote is no accident. Did you know we are 100% women-owned and operated? Every single person that helps make this podcast possible identifies as a woman. Our creative and web design, our engineer and producers, our editors and digital media manager, our agent, our ad execs, our merchandising manager, and even the postal service clerk that helps me with shipping in our P.O. box. All women and all LGBTQ plus allies. We will continue to employ and partner with women as our podcast grows, but we could use your help. Please support women in podcasting by visiting MuellerSheWrote.com and become a patron today. Alrighty, ready for the Fantasy Indictment League?
Yes.
Okay, guys. It's time for the Fantasy Indictment League, and we don't have enough spots.
No, we do not.
It's not enough, so I have to draft Erickson for the week. He got the letter saying he was going to be indicted.
Yeah.
I feel like that usually happens within a certain amount of time, so I'm going to draft Erickson. I'll stick with Stone and Assange and a Corsi plea agreement. I still think he's going to flip, Jordan, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. And then a Butina plea agreement. I think we might get news on that. It's been in the rumblings. It's just been rumors. Nobody gets points for it yet. So I'm going to do that. So Corsi plea agreement, Butina plea agreement, Stone, Assange, and Erickson.
Whew. That's good. It's as good as it gets. I'm like, what could I even say to that? I feel like I'll just stick with a rando for the fun of it, but I'll do my usuals as well. I'll do.
Now, keep in mind, too, Manafort could be brought up on additional crimes.
He will. He will for sure, I think. I just don't know if it's this week.
Well, because Renato was saying that they might not. They might just spell it out in the sentencing agreement.
Yes,
but
that's true. I take back my for sure. I didn't go to law school. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about here.
Good point. You know, I wanted to add Scott Free to my rando. We never talked about Scott Free.
Oh gosh,
that was a great day. Yeah. Okay. So I've got Kush, who I know is a big fish, but just holding out hope. Butina, plea deal, still have her. I believe I had Corsi last week, so I'll keep that and plea because he hates Trump now. And
well, he doesn't. He's not Credico. He's not the one who hates Trump, but I think he's going to go number.
He still might go number. Okay.
Go number.
Yeah, I'll keep him in there. And man, they should have a sitcom. I keep confusing them, Corsi and Credico. I'm gonna do a rando, and then one more. Who do I normally have? There's so many that I mix them up now.
Stone, Assange.
I don't have
Butina, yeah.
Okay, Butina
Erickson.
I do have. I don't have Erickson, even though I know it's likely to happen. I just want to be different, so I'm gonna do.
Play to win, Jaleesa.
Yeah. My last one, I'm gonna pick Stone.
All right. Yeah, I would definitely have Stone on there, even though we've been saying for weeks now we should get those indictments. But
any week now, yeah.
But they could be delayed by the Mueller case, the Mueller subpoena case that's going through the courts right now, where he's challenging the constitutionality of Mueller's appointment. they might be waiting for that to wrap up.
Yeah.
He could be really pressing Corsi. That could take a while to get him to flip. You never know. But
We'll see. Yeah.
I got to keep Stone on there. I gotta. And now this Assange thing where they announced that he's free, not free, but Ecuador's good with him being kicked out of the embassy, the Ecuadorian embassy.
You know what? Yeah, I'll replace my rando with Assange. That one's too good. I can't let it go.
It's just too good. All right, what do you got?
Okay, so I have, it's hard because there are so many, obviously, but I think what I'm going to do, I'm doing Trump org. I'm going to do Bettina plea deal. I'm doing Erickson. I'm doing Corsi plea deal and Assange. And I'm leaving out Stone because I'm thinking maybe for this week at least, the likelihood of them going for the smaller fish first or something would make sense. I think the Trump org has a good chance of being indicted.
Indicted by Mueller or just indicted?
Is that
indicted? You said we can count, right?
Because they were just subpoenaed for the emoluments case.
Yes.
So it's not going to be that this week.
Oh, like that's the biggest thing you think they'll have for a while is that subpoena, you think?
They won't move that quickly, you don't think?
They just send out the subpoenas.
I don't know how these things work. How long does it take?
They haven't even
usually?
interviewed them.
Okay.
Well then, whatever.
But that's the emoluments case. That's DC and Maryland court. That's not part of the Mueller investigation.
Right. But didn't you say
and
that
it's got nothing to do with Russia either?
I thought you said we could still do that Trump
for financial
case.
stuff.
The Butina one. And you can do the Trump organization as it relates to the Mueller investigation.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay, well, now I'll replace Trump work with Stone.
Nice. That's
All
good.
right.
That's good.
No, I don't want to feel like I was twisting your arm on that.
No, I feel like
that's
you
totally
make the
fair.
rules, so it makes sense that we would look to you.
I do feel like just because it's Trump related, even though it's not Mueller investigation related, if it relates to indicting an organization that has his own name in it, part of me feels like
it is
should
impeachment
count,
related.
but it is not the Mueller investigation, and that is
Yeah,
fair.
it actually has nothing to do with Russia. It's just emoluments.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Just bad
but
Trump.
it does have to do with bad Trump. Yeah.
It's just an extra fun
Yeah.
icing on the cake. Maybe we'll do some sort of a bonus alt draft where you can call indictments and charges that aren't part of the Mueller investigation. Maybe get some bonus points or something like that.
Spin-off league. I like that.
We'll work on that. Yeah,
No, that is totally fair.
like an alt list.
But yes, well then, especially considering the slow-moving nature of subpoenas that I did not fully consider. Anyway, even if it was relevant to the Mueller investigation, I'm going to take them off and replace them with Stone.
Okay.
Nice. Sounds good.
All right. And I don't know if it's a slow moving as much as there's like 18 of them.
Yeah.
And they've got to interview all those folks and get all the documentary evidence.
Just time consuming in general.
And they've just subpoenaed the Trump org for all those documents and stuff. And they'll slow roll that shit.
Yeah,
As long as they can because they're a-holes. Unless Weisselberg's, is that who? Weissman. The guy who got immunity. Unless he's helping them out too. Who knows?
The financial guy?
Yeah, the accountant. I think it's Weissman.
Weisselman sounds like,
Let me look him up because I don't want to get his name wrong.
Yeah, fact checking in real time.
Andrew Weissman?
I don't know his first
He's
name.
He's on Mueller's team.
It is Weisselberg.
Weisselberg.
Is
there we go.
Alan Weisselberg.
Yeah, I was thinking Weissman, you said.
Yeah, he's one of the prosecutors on the special counsel.
Are you guys ready for sabotage?
Yes.
This does definitely. This is in the true spirit of sabotage. This is going to throw a wrench into at least my fantasy indictment pick this week. According to reporting from Vanity Fair's Gabriel Sherman, Don Jr. is facing an indictment for lying to Congress. And Jackie Spear said this week on television he lied multiple times to Congress. And this week, he left for Canada. Gabriel Sherman was told by a source familiar with the matter that, quote, they think the bomb is coming this week and he doesn't want to be anywhere near a microphone if the bomb drops.
Damn. At least he's smarter than his dad. He's like, I don't want to even, put myself in more trouble by having a microphone near me.
Yeah. I saw that he was going to Canada, but I didn't even think about that.
I thought he was hunting.
He is. He's hunting in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Hunting for a better lawyer.
Yeah, hunting for a PR firm to help him out of all this.
Yeah, for a clue.
So I have to. So that means if I add Junior, I have to take someone else off. So I have to either take Erickson, Stone, Assange, Corsi, or Butina.
Oh, Corsi, right?
And I'm going to take Corsi off of there because he could take a while.
Totally.
If they indict DTJ for lying to Congress, would that not mean that there's everybody else that lied as well that's going to come out at the same time? Or do you think he would come out first for some reason?
Well, the only reason is because somebody close to him said that he's in Canada to avoid that.
Yeah.
In case it happens.
Like one of
so
his
that's why I was
homies.
like, oh, it's this week.
Okay.
They think it's this week.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that I feel like Mueller would, and he might have already done this, gone to these guys who lied to Congress, particularly maybe about the Trump Tower Moscow thing. That's just one thing that he knows that a bunch of people lied about. And Cohen kind of orchestrated it when he publicly said what his lies were. I think that if he's indicted for that, lying to Congress, I feel like he'd go to him separately and say, hey, like give him what course he got. I got you lying to Congress, so here's what I'm going to offer you if you cooperate.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would hear about that indictment until he sort of made that offer to the kids.
You want to
That's a good
flip on
point.
Papa?
Flip on
Flip on Papa?
Flip on Papa?
I love it. I like that. I'm going to actually do the same switch. I'm going to take off Corsi and put Individual 1 Junior on there.
Yeah, it's Trump is individual one.
Yeah, Junior.
No, Trump is individual one.
So
Well,
this
no,
is
she's
this
saying
is-
individual 1 Junior.
Oh. I'm
I
like,
know, you couldn't
no, it's
shake
not.
it.
You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it is.
My brain's like that too sometimes.
Oh, individual one means Trump, and so individual one junior is Trump Jr.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's not as smooth, so I can see how it goes over your head.
I miss a lot, you guys. Believe it or not, I do. It happens. It happens more frequently than I like to admit. Anyway, so all right, cool. I don't know though. It's like he could. They might wait. You know, like I said, it might be secret back dealings where Mueller's like, "Hey, buddy, psst, hey, God, you lied to
Yeah.
Congress. You want to help? You want to help?" But he could be indicted. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's the indictment fight, subpoena fight. You know, we you know.
That's holding everything up. Yeah, it could be.
I don't know, but then people are also saying it could have been John Kelly and that timing we talked about earlier. Yeah, I know we'll find out one day, but I want to know now.
Those are big beans. Yeah, I'm eager for those too.
They
Yeah.
are. They're
Who-
super big beans.
What friend was it that said he's fleeing to Canada?
Yeah, what kind of friend are you?
Seriously. Like, has
I didn't know.
The lion that he's hunting.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Maybe it was Dick Cheney. He's like,
Oh.
hunting's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Don't go hunting with your friend. Don't shoot him in the face.
Yeah, to distract from the Mueller investigation, he would shoot someone in the face.
Yeah, probably.
Totally.
Yeah, he can't stay in Canada forever. I think. I mean, yeah. Sorry, Canada, if he does.
Yeah, we didn't mean to do
Yeah,
that.
we'd
one.
like to
Bummer.
apologize on behalf of the United States to Canada and its provinces for having to have him there.
Yeah.
We're very sorry.
If any of our Canadian listeners see him, just let us know. Tweet us.
Can you
Tweet a
imagine
picture.
like him going through customs? Like, what brings you to Canada? Fleeing indictments.
Yeah, you know, typical.
Looking for a safe house. You got any cabins?
They should like spray him with the what did they do with the tear gas with the people at the border? They should do that to Don Jr. as he's going through
Canada. Every tear gassing
Yeah, they
invaders
Yeah.
into our country.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Okay, I do think I am gonna put him on my list, and I'm gonna take Stone off for this week, or
Okay.
replace him with DTJ.
All right, kind of the same logic you had.
Yeah,
going there.
yeah.
All right, cool guys. It's time for the interview. And this week we had a discussion with Grant Stern, so check it out. So joining us today to discuss some bits about the Cohen findings this week is editor of Occupy Democrats at thewashingtonpress.com. He's the producer of the Dworkin Report podcast and publisher of thesternfacts.com, Grant Stern. Grant, welcome back to MSW.
Thank you for having me back on the program, AG. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So you wanted to talk to me a little bit today about a guy named Weldon. And way back in episode 32 we released on June 10th called Manafort Slapped with a Superseding Indictment, our Fantasy Indictment League was a bit about this guy. So I basically went over a report after, you know, we went through the Kalimnik indictment and we all got points for that. And then, because that's part of the Fantasy Indictment League. And I also added Sean Hannity and somebody named Alaham and Muzin, two friends of Broidy, to my Fantasy Indictment League that week. And then during that report, I talked about Natasha Bertrand, who's a staff writer at The Atlantic. She put out an article on ex-congressman Weldon, who has ties to Trump and Russia. 20 years ago, he lost his bid for re-election in Pennsylvania after an FBI investigation exposed his ties to two Russian companies. And back in June, Dianne Feinstein wanted the Senate Judiciary to interview Weldon about his suspicious ties to Trump and Russia. It seems that back then he seemed to know about Trump wanting to lift sanctions on Russia. And he knew about the role a Russian oligarch may have played in trying to influence the Trump campaign, and a significant instance in which a foreign national wanted to sway Trump through one of Trump's closest advisors. And I can't help but think that that might have been Cohen. And this
sounding like it, starting to sound like it.
This guy might have the intel, I said back then, this guy might have the intel about a specific quid pro quo, so I'm adding him to our fantasy indictment draft. Natasha reports he's likely connected to Artemenko, Cohen, and Sater, and was probably funded by Vexelberg, all of whom have been questioned by Mueller, except for Cohen, until now. So the $500,000 payment to Cohen by Columbus Nova was likely about this Ukraine peace deal, and Dianne Feinstein believes Weldon is the linchpin in that. So what now that we've got these Cohen documents, and now that I'm reading back, it seems to just slide in really nicely, doesn't it?
It certainly does, doesn't it? So I want to first start by acknowledging my co-author, Patrick Simpson. He's on Twitter at Patrick L. Simpson. And we started writing a series on the Stern Facts called The Grand Old Putin Party. And yeah, you can laugh. It's okay. We laugh when we say it too. I think it's a good title. But what happened is, so we started examining, we're like, man, there's this one guy, and he's like the Forrest Gump of Russian lobbyists. He's everywhere. Okay? Like, he just turns up everywhere. But he's very smart. Anyway, so we kind of like saw this guy, and we're like, man, this guy is like really close to the Heritage Foundation, and he's having these annual events, and people are coming to these annual events. Like, who are these people that are going to these very frequent Russia events? And then who are the people that continued going? And so we started writing this series, and we released the first 10 parts in May of 2017, outlining how this one fellow was a Republican, a Russian-American Republican, basically lobbyist for Putin that wasn't registered. And after that series came out, about a month later, I told Patrick to write the story that he wrote on Weldon. He dug up Weldon. We talked about it. We're like, this guy is definitely a player. Like, Rohrabacher is a player. In fact, I'd like to call him,
because that's who I instantly thought of when we started talking about Weldon again. I was like trying to, recall him to the front of my brain, the front part of my brain, and Rohrabacher kept coming up in my head.
Well, Weldon would be like Putin's first favorite congressman, and by the way, probably a much more favored congressman, because Weldon was in Congress for 20 years. He lost his 2006 election after the FBI raided him. It was a deal that he tried to concoct to give $100 million of U.S. tax money to a company in Russia that supposedly had a good in with Putin, which you would think, does our government really need that? But it did have a good in with Putin because it was run by the former head of the FSB intelligence service, by the way, who's still the head of the FSB. This guy was a connection of Weldon's. So it puts him very high on the suspicion list when you know that this person openly was trying to concoct a deal between the United States government and the head of the FSB. That is Kurt Weldon. That was his swan song in Congress, and he's quite bitter about that, by the way. Oh yeah. He says he's a victim like Hillary. Yeah, nice. But here's the thing. So, we researched Cohen and Weldon, and I mean, they intersect when it came to that back channel Ukrainian peace deal. But as we've been learning from the revelations with Cohen's latest plea deal and then sentencing report this week, he obscured that Moscow Tower project, right? He obscured that he was doing with Felix Sater, the Russian mobster, Russian-American mobster, turned FBI informant. So he's doing this deal with Sater, hides it completely from January through June, which is a key time in the campaign. And then suddenly those two popped up again together for this Ukrainian peace deal.
Weldon and Cohen.
Well, Weldon had a role in it that nobody understood, but Patrick actually wrote about as part of our coverage in June of 2017. You see, Weldon wrote the plan, and he wrote it with a Ukrainian oligarch that connected to Paul Manafort.
Oh no, really?
Oh yes, really. And they did it in a college conference.
Are there any Ukrainian oligarchs that don't connect to Paul Manafort? Or
It's a very small pool compared to the Russian oligarch parties. You know, like they're more Putin friends. The Ukrainian ones, they're all Manafort buddies.
Right, and it's funny whenever they talk about lobbyists here, I'm like, are there any who haven't worked with Russia? Like, I can't, like, I could go open a lobbying firm and just my whole advertisement would be, I've never worked with Russia. And
that's crazy, but true.
And I would be the only one, I think.
So, you know, we've traced the connections and we've stumbled into something. Okay, we stumbled into something actually like a little bit bigger than just Trump Russia, if you want to kind of bear with me for a minute. These people have a couple of businesses, and our friend Weldon is connected with some of Cohen's friends, including Artemenko, through an aviation business in Florida. And we have been investigating that. And the reason,
yeah, weren't you talking about that a while? Like you've been working on that for a while, right?
well, we've been working on a lot of things for a while, but this is big that the special counsel's office is looking at Weldon.
Hang on one second. Refresh my memory. Was there some sort of aviation business in Florida that got shut down? And I feel like this has been in the news before. This has come up before.
I don't know. The only other thing that has come up, and I don't know if it has any connection, it's just a Cohen Florida aviation connection, which is that Cohen actually, one of the items that he's being convicted of is hiding $100,000 real estate commission for selling a home in a Florida aviation community in Ocala. The aviation company that we found is in South Florida. Ocala is in North Central Florida. You know, Florida has these aviation communities. Yeah, it was.
Yes, that was it. That was it, Grant. It was the aviation. It was the aviation community. That's what I was thinking of.
Right. I believe that was part of his time working for the nation state of Qatar. They're another favorite topic of mine. We could do a whole podcast about that. But in short, the special counsel's office is investigating Kurt Weldon because he's on the board of a Russian mob-connected aviation company. That company is connected to Andrei Artemenko, who took the plan from Weldon and a man named Alexander Roved. They made it at a Pennsylvania area college. We have video footage of them with the plan. And it was actually drafted by a former Heritage Foundation lawyer, you know, like he was involved in all this. And we have actually 2 reports on it on the sternfacts.com. I'll tweet them out in a second so everybody can take a look. But the crux of this, like the rub, the reason why we know it's like mob connected and what is it? Like, what is it? Is that this is a company that's been used as a cover to create fake debts and sell the portfolio of fake debts. This is a kind of a crazy thing, but in America, there are people who are running scams where they create paperwork claiming that people owe debts and then go try to collect. And, you know, if they call 50,000 people, you know, a few hundred will be like, oh, I must owe that, and send a check or give a credit card or pay money. And it's a giant racket. It's a literal racket. It's something that the federal government is actually cracking down on. So that's the intersection. And it's a very broad intersection when I say like mob connected. I mean, it's like,
okay. So do you think that Weldon might be one of these discrete Russian issues that was mentioned in the Cohen-Mueller document, or
it's very possible. And I think you pointed it out when we chatted earlier that, you know, there's been reports that there was a bodybuilder, right? And of course, Cohen actually did plan a, you know, what is it? The extreme wrestling. I'm not a big fan, obviously, but he was doing the no holds barred, UFC style fighting, and he was doing that in Russia. So, that's one of the people that is listed in the Mueller document, the November contact. And I believe that's something Scott Stedman pointed out.
Well, that's Klokov, right? Dmitry
yes,
Klokov?
Klokov, yes.
From the BuzzFeed reporting that came out.
Mm-hmm. And, gosh, if I hadn't closed my laptop, I have a little chart that tells you the name of the entertainment company there. I got to say, though, I give a lot of credit for this work to Patrick Simpson. It arose out of our series. And to further, I'm going to tweet something else out that we've done on Weldon, which is actually super important, which is that in the late 1990s, Kurt Weldon changed. Okay. And we kind of observed that change and we reported on it because it's kind of relevant. You see, in 1999, he was going on CNN as a congressman and saying that America had been cyber attacked by Russia. That sound familiar?
So they got to him.
Well, a few months later, he started working on a peace plan, U.S. and Russia, new beginnings.
Good old GRU.
Yeah, after one particular trip, and he started pitching that thing everywhere. And he and this Republican Dr. Ed Lozansky that we talked about, they started pitching cooperation, and they very highly partisanized Russia in the late 1990s. It was like Yeltsin and Clinton versus everybody else, and Republicans and the new people in their mind. And
right, and the big reset button, and
right, then Putin arrives and Bush arrives, and this fellow Weldon was presenting his plan to Bush and Putin.
The big reset. Sorry, the big reset button came with Medvedev and Hillary. Sorry, my bad. Wrong Clinton and wrong.
Look, the reset was Obama, but there was a big reset of U.S.-Russian relations when it was Putin and Bush versus Yeltsin and Clinton. In fact, Bill Clinton released his archives lately, pretty recently, papers and stuff. And there's a note from Yeltsin saying that I think Putin's a really good guy. It's good reading. Not really strategically important, but
and poor Mitt Romney. He's been saying this all along. Russia's the enemy.
Yeah. We're not laughing at Mitt now. Now let's see if he does anything about it in the Senate. He could lead the.
We're sorry, Mitt.
You know what? Mitt could lead the gang of. It'll take 20.
It'll be the Romney 20 now.
Yeah, it'll be the Romney 20.
It was the Romney 9, but it's the Romney 20.
Yeah.
I was feeling really optimistic about the Senate chances for Democrats until I finally took a look at the map and went, oh.
Well, yes, that's true.
Grant, thank you so much. Everybody check out thesternfacts.com and the Washington Press. Is that it?
That's right. I'm at washingtonpress.com/author/Grant.
Great. And thank you again so much for coming on. We always appreciate your insights, and your in-depth reporting is really, really, I think, important during this kind of an investigation, so that we can get sort of the context of what's happening and not just the top headlines.
It is my humble honor to be invited on Mueller, She Wrote with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks. All right. We'll talk to you soon. All right, guys. That's our show this week. Kind of a jam-packed show.
Kinda, yeah.
Our hopes of having a 45-minute podcast, as was recommended to us by everyone in the industry, went out the window
a season ago.
Time ago. Yeah. I think we're going to start season 3 on January 2nd.
Whoop, whoop.
That's when House takes the gavels, Democrats take control. And so that will be season 3, because now we're getting into reopening all the Russia investigations in Congress, and we're going to start seeing some of this. Some of these major indictments coming out.
Yeah, and if we get to 10,000 patrons, we'll start putting out those 2 episodes a week.
Yep.
Yes, that's true. And another thing I was thinking of doing is just actually making additional episodes, not bonus episodes, but actual episodes, maybe one other episode, and dropping it on Wednesday or Thursday when the midweek news comes out.
Yeah.
But keeping it for patrons. That's another thing we can probably do.
Yeah, that's great.
But if we want to do it for the public, we got to get to 10,000 patrons.
Good point. So we'll start the habit of 2 episodes, but patrons will get all of it.
Well, you'll
for
get
now.
it daily with 10,000 patrons. We'll have a daily pod with 10,000 patrons, but it was 7,000 patrons.
Oh, sorry, 7,000. Well, we're
No,
already, we're
3,000.
past.
No, we're at 2,500.
Yeah, so we're approaching that
2,300.
first.
Oh, I'm thinking. Okay, my bad.
It's okay.
Oh,
Numbers are hard for
Actually,
me too.
I take it all back. 3,000 patrons get you an extra episode every week that we'll be able to afford to put on 2 episodes a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7,000 patrons gets us a daily, not 10,000.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry, I was.
That's okay. That's just goals, man.
I was thinking money. Which we are very far from 10,000.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Wishful thinking.
But we are thinking about a tour, right? Are we talking about?
Yeah. We got a lot of interest in Sydney and Melbourne, Australia. The UK wants to see us. Maybe London is probably where we'll go there. Possibly New Zealand, depending on how many New Zealanders we can get to come out.
Muellerites out there.
And we're working on seeing if we want to do a show in Los Angeles. But in the every other place we want to go, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco,
New York,
Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, and Washington, D.C. We know we can sell tickets there.
Yeah.
We haven't, but L.A., even though it's our second or third largest audience, LA is weird. So you have to ask if people in LA will go to shows because there's so many other things to do in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hit or miss. You could have all the best advertising and marketing in the world and 2 people show up, or you could never tell anyone and it's sold out.
True.
So that's why LA is a weird market. That's why we're asking about LA. So find that tweet if you're in LA and you would come to a show. Find that tweet, reply to it, because our tour manager's watching that Twitter feed to see how much interest we get in a Los Angeles show. So.
Sounds good. Yeah. So make a Twitter and then find us.
Make a Twitter. Find our thing. And then, that'd be great. Follow us on Twitter also. And if you have a chance, subscribe. That's like the number one thing you can do for us for visibility purposes, because we really want to try to increase the audience to get the message out there about the Mueller investigation. There's so many people, and I know you guys have run into this in your daily lives where you're like, because we eat, sleep, and breathe Mueller, but there are people who are like, what's going on with that? I don't even know.
They have no clue. And these are educated people too. A lot of them just don't keep up with this particular news cycle, and there's so much in it.
There's too much to keep up with, is what is the truth.
Yeah.
And it's hard next to impossible. That's why we wanted to start the podcast. Let's make it easy for you.
Yeah, tell a friend.
Yeah, tell a friend, and please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes.
And leave us a review.
Leave us a review.
We've gotten a lot of great reviews lately.
Yeah, we like reading the negative ones, but don't leave us negative.
Please don't leave any more. We can't take it.
Yeah, so to counter the trolls that do that, that's why we need to get the good reviews on there. We appreciate it, and that's free. That's nothing to subscribe and give us a rating. So we really appreciate all of our patrons, and we really appreciate all of our listeners so much. I'm like really super like beside myself and honored with you guys. We have like the coolest fan base in the history of podcasts, and
good people.
So funny. You guys are so funny and just so engaged and
so smart.
It's
so
awesome.
Sexy. Is that sexual harassment? Probably. Calling our fans sexy in one big group. Yeah, I'll cut that out.
Now we're gonna be sued.
Yeah, we're starting to get too many fans, so we're gonna have creepy people start seeping in probably.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't start the creepiness.
The John Spurlock thing came up in my memories. I remember. Okay, so John Spurlock was an early hater.
Very early, like episode 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
OG hater.
Yeah, he is an old school hater, and let me see if I can find it here because it popped up in my. You know how you do like a time hop or in your old feed. So here's what he said to us on Facebook a year ago, and this we've riffed on this comment for a long time now. We've got a lot of traction out of this. Spurlock. He says, "Oh, I see. You think you're an entertainer. Couldn't find anything useful to do with your life. By the way, I travel a lot and sit in airports, and when your shit comes up on my page, I feel you should also consider my opinion." If you do not put up your crap, people with real jobs wouldn't be commenting. Oh yeah, fuck you in the heart, bitch.
That's right.
Oh my God.
That's the one.
Oh yeah,
line.
I just remembered. Fuck you in the heart.
So, and incidentally,
yeah,
as an afterthought, fuck you in the heart.
You know, one more thing. It's a T-shirt idea in the future.
Just put that whole thing on a T-shirt.
The whole thing.
Or one of those tattoos where people get like a big saying. Or
yeah,
something.
the whole sleeve.
That'd be great.
As we're saying this, he's just sitting at home masturbating to this.
He's still a fan, I bet. He
He's
just
a grudge
stopped
tugger.
talking. Yeah.
Grudge tug.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we came up with for people who
Love to hate.
masturbate to our podcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Master hate.
Master haters. Grudge tuggers. I love it.
Good stuff.
All right, you guys, thanks so much. Tune in this week. We got a couple bonus mini-sodes in the book club and all that good stuff, so you don't want to miss it. You can listen to those if you're a patron, which you can do for super cheap. Just go to patreon.com/MuellerSheWrote. Otherwise, we'll see you next Sunday night. I've been AG.
I've been Jaleesa Johnson.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
And this is Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG with editing and logo design by Jaleesa Johnson. Our marketing consultant and social media manager is Sarah Lee Steiner, and our subscriber and communications director is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG, and research assistance by Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our merchandising managers are Sarah Lee Steiner and Sarah Hirschberger Valencia. Our web design and branding are by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MuellerSheWrote.com.